Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to guide you on a journey of transformation, a journey that starts within, and a journey toward becoming the best version of yourself. First and foremost, understand that the key to a better life lies in the commitment to continuous self-improvement. It's not about being perfect, it's about being better than you were yesterday. So, let's dive into some self-improvement tips that can shape your destiny and lead you to a life of fulfillment and success. 1. Set clear goals. The first step towards self-improvement is setting clear, compelling goals. Goals give you direction and purpose. They ignite the passion within you and provide a roadmap for your journey. Define what you want in life and set both short-term and long-term goals. Remember, a goal without a plan is just a wish. 2. Invest in personal development. Education doesn't end in school. It's a lifelong journey. Invest in your personal development by reading books, attending seminars, and seeking knowledge. The more you learn, the more you earn, not just in terms of money, but in terms of wisdom, happiness, and a fulfilling life. 3. Master your time. Time is the most valuable asset you have. Learn to manage it effectively. Create a daily schedule, prioritize tasks, and focus on what truly matters. Time wasted is life wasted, so be intentional about how you spend your days. Remember, you can't control time, but you can control how you use it. 4. Surround yourself with positive influences. Your environment plays a significant role in shaping who you become. Surround yourself with positive, uplifting people who inspire and challenge you to grow. Distance yourself from negativity and toxic influences. Remember, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. 5. Embrace failure as a stepping stone. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's a part of success. Don't be afraid to fail. Be afraid of not trying. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Learn from your failures, adjust your approach, and keep moving forward. Remember, the road to success is paved with failures. It's a natural part of the journey. 6. Cultivate a positive mindset. Your thoughts shape your reality. Cultivate a positive mindset by focusing on what you can control, practicing gratitude, and replacing negative thoughts with empowering ones. Your attitude determines your altitude, so choose positivity, even in the face of challenges. 7. Take care of your health. Your body is your temple, and it houses the extraordinary potential within you. Take care of your health through regular exercise, a balanced diet, and sufficient rest. A healthy body leads to a healthy mind and a healthy life. Remember, you can't enjoy success if you're not in good health. 8. Practice consistency and discipline. Success is not an overnight phenomenon. It's the result of consistent, disciplined actions. Develop good habits, stay committed to your goals, and be disciplined in your pursuits. The compound effect of small positive actions done consistently over time leads to extraordinary results. 9. Be open to continuous learning. The world is evolving, and so should you. Be open to continuous learning and adaptability. Embrace change as an opportunity for growth. The more flexible and open-minded you are, the more equipped you'll be to navigate the challenges of life and succeed in a dynamic world. 10. Celebrate your progress. As you embark on your journey of self-improvement, take time to celebrate your progress. Acknowledge your achievements, no matter how small, and use them as fuel to propel you forward. Celebrate the person you are becoming, and remember that every step forward is a victory in itself. Which leads me to my final point. I believe with all my heart that reading serves as a mentor for personal growth, guiding you on a path to success, fulfillment, and a life beyond your wildest dreams. Let me share with you the profound impact that books have had on my own life. I was once a young man with dreams and ambitions, but it was the wisdom found in the pages of books that became my guiding light. Books opened up new worlds for me, exposing me to ideas, perspectives, and strategies that I could have never discovered on my own. They became my mentors, shaping the way I thought, the way I perceived the world, and ultimately, the way I lived my life. Now, why is it that reading serves as a mentor for personal growth? Well, consider this. When you read a book, you are engaging in a conversation with some of the greatest minds in history. Authors pour their knowledge, experiences, and insights onto the pages. And by reading, you have the privilege of tapping into that vast reservoir of wisdom. It's like having a one-on-one mentorship with the most brilliant minds that have ever walked this earth. Books are timeless mentors. They don't just share information, they share the distilled wisdom of generations. You have the opportunity to learn from the successes and failures of those who have come before you. Think about it. You can sit down with the greatest thinkers, leaders, and achievers throughout history, and they'll share their knowledge with you in the form of a book. What an incredible privilege. Furthermore, reading provides a unique form of mentorship because it allows you to learn at your own pace. A good book is not just a source of information. It's a companion on your personal growth journey. You can revisit its pages whenever you need guidance, inspiration, or a gentle reminder of the principles that lead to success. Now let's delve into some specific reasons why reading is such a powerful mentor for personal growth. Firstly, books expand your mind. When you read, you expose yourself to new ideas, perspectives, and possibilities. Your mind becomes a fertile ground for creativity and innovation. A well-written book has the power to break down the limitations you may have placed on yourself and show you a world of endless opportunities. Secondly, books provide solutions to life's challenges. Whatever obstacle you are facing, chances are someone has faced a similar challenge and written about their experience. Books are like road maps, guiding you through the twists and turns of life. They offer practical advice, strategies, and solutions that you can apply to overcome your own challenges. Thirdly, books inspire and motivate. The stories of great achievers, the triumphs over adversity, and the tales of resilience found in books can ignite a fire within you. They show you that despite the odds, greatness is attainable. Reading about the achievements of others can be the fuel you need to pursue your own dreams with unwavering determination. Fourthly, books are a source of continuous learning. In a world that is constantly evolving, the commitment to lifelong learning is essential. Books allow you to stay informed, adapt to change, and stay ahead in your chosen field. The knowledge you gain from books becomes a powerful tool in your personal and professional arsenal. Fifthly, books shape your character. The characters you encounter in books, the moral dilemmas they face, and the decisions they make all contribute to the molding of your own character. As you immerse yourself in the narratives, you gain valuable insights into human nature and develop the empathy and understanding that are crucial for building meaningful relationships. Now, I want to address a common misconception, the belief that you need a lot of time to read. I understand that in our fast-paced world, time is a precious commodity. However, the investment you make in reading pays dividends that far exceed the time spent. Think of it as an investment in your future self, a commitment to becoming the best version of yourself. You don't need to read a book in one sitting. Make it a habit to read even just a few pages each day. Over time, those pages add up, and so does the knowledge, wisdom, and personal growth that comes with it. Remember, it's not about the quantity of books you read. It's about the quality of the ideas you absorb and apply in your life. In closing, my friends, I want to leave you with this powerful truth. Reading serves as a mentor for personal growth. It is a gateway to a world of knowledge, a pathway to success, and a source of inspiration that can elevate your life to extraordinary heights. Embrace the habit of reading. Make it a non-negotiable part of your daily routine, and watch as it transforms you into the person you were always meant to become.
You've got to see the future finished in advance. You've got to put in the long hours and put up with the setbacks and the disappointments. You've got to learn to enjoy the process of disciplines and of putting yourself through the paces of doing the uncomfortable until it becomes comfortable. You've got to be prepared and willing to attack the challenges if you want the success, because challenges are part of success. Now that may sound like a full menu of activities, but let me assure you that the process of going from average to fortune isn't really all that difficult. Thinking about it is the difficult part. Anticipating all the effort and the changes and the disciplines is far worse in the mind than in reality. I can promise you that the challenges you'll meet on the road to success are far less difficult to deal with than the struggles and the disappointments that come from being average. Confronting and overcoming challenges is an exhilarating experience. The key to development is to be all that you can possibly be. I don't know what your talents are. I don't know what your skills are, but here's what I probably am right on. That you're behind on an accelerated effort toward your full development. I would suggest that. Now, for some of you, I know that's probably really not true. But even as I look at my own life, because, I'm tempted to procrastinate just like everybody else. I should have written 30 books by now. I've only written 4 or 5. I should have done a lot of things, but I haven't. I got distracted, and all of us, have these challenges. But what could I become? What could I become? I had one of my dearest friends. I've lost him. He died at age 53. One day, and he drank a little too much. David drank a little too much, but he did all kinds of things. He was a builder, and he was a dreamer, and he did a lot of things. But his drinking sort of kept him in a fog for like years and years. About 6 years ago, he was sitting at the yacht club, and he was in a fog, and suddenly it occurred to him, I wonder what I could have accomplished all these years if I hadn't have been in this sort of foggy state. And he said that did it. And the last 6 years before he died, he was free. And he accomplished some incredible things that last 6 years. Being all that you can be and not let habits drag you down. Not let things, sidetrack you from the full development of what you have the capable of being. What all could your heart encompass if you really had the chance and you really had the disciplines and really got to it? What could you really become? What could you earn? How healthy could you really be? How many books could you write? How many poems could you write? So here's what I would ask of you. If you feel that you're a little bit stalled, wherever you are in your progress, I'm asking you to correct that. I'm asking you to see if you can't possibly be on a more accelerated track toward your possibilities and your full development. Here's what life is all about. To become all that we can possibly be. The full development of all of your potential, that's number one. Number two is the wise use of all of your resources. That's what life is all about. Full development.
We're all aware that many people feel that we must be careful of focusing on money or affluence or abundance. That in it, or in the pursuit of it, there is danger. We often hear quoted from the Bible, the love of money is the root of all evil. And I do agree. If you make money your love, and you pursue affluence to the exclusion of, or at the expense of, other values of life, you have lost, not won. However, let us consider this question. If you could do better, should you? That's not a bad question. In the time allotted to labor, in the time given to economics, care for family, success, achievement, productivity, the creation of value, the development of skills and creativity, if you could do better, should you? I think that one of the greatest satisfactions of living life to the fullest is doing the best you can with whatever you have. Doing less than your best has ways of eroding the psyche. We seem to be creatures of enterprise. Surely it is the reason for the seasons. The soil and the sun and the rain and the seed all say, what can you do with us? The seasons say, do you have the genius to make something unique of us? Life says, here's the raw material. What splendid things can you produce from all there is? So, go for high productivity, the full employment of your genius, the full development of your potential in all areas of your life, including earning money. That is the essence of life.
Make this note. None of us lack the capacity. None of us lack the capacity. We have far more capacity
I do read a record where it says, all that time ago, some people lived to be 700 years, 800 years, 900 years old. I feel a little shortchanged when I only have the chance maybe to live 70, 80, 90, 100 years. When all that time ago, the record says, some lived to be 700, 800, 900 years. It seems like it would take 7 or 8 or 900 years to tap the full extent of our capacity. But here's what I'm asking you to do. Get busy. You've got more brain power than you've used so far. You've got more potential than you've used so far. You've got more strength than you've possibly used so far. No telling how many languages you can learn. No telling how far you can go. No telling how strong you can get until you get busy working on yourself and see if you can't tap all of your full potential. People might have put you down in the past. I'm telling you, those days are over. People that have told you you're too short. People that have told you you're too tall, you're too old, you're too young. I'm telling you, the old idea about your limitations of the past, those days are gone forever.
Mr. Shope only went to the 8th grade in school. He said, Mr. Rohn, if you're 25 years old and you're an American male and you've been to high school and 1 year of college and you're not at least a third of your way towards your fortune, he said, isn't something wrong? Now, see, I'd never looked at it like that before. As being wrong, he said, something's wrong. And he said, there's nothing wrong with the country and nothing wrong with the companies and there's nothing wrong with the banks and the money, but there's something wrong with your plan. There's nothing wrong with you, but there's something wrong with your thinking, something wrong with your plan. You bought the wrong story. You bought the wrong formula. And it's easy to wind up a nice person and broke. It's easy to wind up sincere and poor. I'm telling you, you can be sincere and poor, and you can work hard and be poor if you buy the wrong formula, buy the wrong plan. You didn't add up the percentages. You never took out the calculator. You never counted the cost, as an ancient phrase says. Now, see, that kind of blunt, straight language really helped to uncover where my problem lay. Let me give you one of the most clear formulas he gave me that helped to change my life. We deal in what we call basics in one of my lectures. Basics, fundamentals. And there's just a few fundamentals. And there aren't any new fundamentals. You've got to beware of somebody who says, I got a new fundamentals. And no, fundamentals are old. Here's one of the greatest of basics and fundamentals. It comes from an ancient Bible phrase. Here's what it says. Whatever you sow, you will reap. We call it simply the law of sowing and reaping. Right? Simply put, the law of sowing and reaping. Now then, Mr. Shope said to me, Mr. Rohn, there's another way to quote this law that may very well help to discover where the problem lies. I said, okay, I'm ready. Here's what he said. It's also quoted like this. Whatever you reap is what you've sown. I thought, wow, I never thought about that. Now there went my list of all the things I blame for my current circumstances. If you don't like the crop, who do you look up? Answer, whoever planted it. And where do you find who planted your crop? Answer, in the mirror. That's where you go come fall, come harvest time. You go to the mirror. And if necessary, you say, a few skinny carrots, I got to be unimpressed. Where were you last spring? Asleep. Didn't you read the books? Did you break your hoe? This is talking straight. This is telling it like it is. I asked the question last night, am I reading enough books or am I not? If I engage in my current financial practices, will it take me toward the fortune I would wish for in the next 10 years or will it not? If I keep up my current health practices, will I have the vitality and the health and the vigor to do all the things I want to do 5 years from now? Will I or won't I? Are my current practices taking me where I would really like to go, or have I been kidding myself for quite some time? I had a day just before I met Mr. Shope called Do Not Kid Myself Anymore Day. Here's where I am after 25 years. Here's what I've got. There's no use Mickey Mousing with the numbers. There's no use trying to stretch it. There's no use trying to excuse it. There's no use trying to paint it some phony color. Let's tell it like it is. Because it's the truth that starts the freedom mechanism working. It's the truth that starts to relieve the mind of all the guilt and all the excuses and get right down to where it is. When I finally discovered that the government wasn't my problem and that prices weren't my problem and that it wasn't the company and it wasn't company policy and it wasn't my negative relatives and it wasn't the weather and it wasn't the economy and it wasn't the community, when I finally discovered it was me, we call that trauma. Now, after I had passed through the trauma of discovering that it was me and not all the other things I'd blamed all those years, when I finally went through the trauma, now suddenly it dawned on me, hey, if it's me, I can do something about that right away. And then I started getting excited after my trauma had passed. The only change that is really going to dramatically affect your life is you. Mr. Shoaff said to me, Mr. Rohn, if it isn't going well for you, you don't say, what's wrong out there? You say, what's wrong in here? There's a Black Heritage spiritual that says, it's not my mother nor my father. It's not my brother nor my sister. It's me. What a revelation. But once you find out it's you, that's something you can go to work on this very day. You can start to make a new stretch today. You can start reading some new books today. You can sign up for some new classes today. You can start engaging in constructive thinking today. You can make some life-changing decisions today. See, you don't ever have to be the same again after this evening, only by choice. Now, this is called dealing in straight talk. See, I used to blame everything outside. And then let me give you a little philosophy that helped turn my life. Here it is. It's not what happens. It's not what happens. And the reason is because what happens to about everybody. No different. The sun went down on all of us last night. A common event, a happening. And I found out that the same things can happen to two different people. One gets rich and one stays poor. Why is that? It's because it's not what happens, but rather it's what you do that changes everything. So that's a key phrase. It's what happens is about the same. You might put that in parentheses here. Same. What people do, that's what's different. Somebody says, yeah, but I've had. Come on. Everybody's had their share. Disappointments are not special gifts reserved for the poor. Everybody has them. The difference is what you do about it. So here's one of the key questions of the evening. Starting tomorrow, what are you going to do that'll make a change in your life's direction? Good question. What are you going to do starting tomorrow that'll make a difference? Now see, if you don't do something starting tomorrow, yours are going to be like, it's going to be the same. Look at the last 5. Because the next 5 are going to be like the last 5 unless you, major key, tomorrow, change it all. Or change a little, or change something, or don't change. It's choice time. You can do whatever you want. But it's nice to know any day you wish you can change your whole life. What can you do starting? Good question. What can you do with economic chaos, massive disappointment? What can you do with a broken heart? What can you do when it won't work? Good question. So if I had a word with you tonight, one-on-one, just you and me, I think my personal advice to you would be, this year, 1981, reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts. They're there, waiting to be utilized. And then change anything for you want to change. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. If it doesn't suit you, change it. If it doesn't please you, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. See, you don't ever have to be the same again after tonight, only by choice. While we're talking about personal development and letting go of limitations, Here are what I consider to be the biggest self-imposed limitations any man or woman has ever had to deal with. First, procrastination. Procrastination is particularly life-threatening because when we put something off, it doesn't seem at the moment to be all that important. At the end of the day, if you have let a few things slide, it doesn't seem like such a bad day. However, enough of those days piled up will make a disastrous year, and eventually, a disastrous life. Our inability to come to grips with a natural tendency to procrastinate will surely send us drifting in the wrong direction. Before you reach the final session of this program, you'll have left procrastination behind. If you're still troubled by it, you'll have discovered that it's simply too costly to put up with any longer. Besides, you'll be too excited about where you're going to postpone the activities taking you there. Self-imposed limitation number 2. Blame. All of us have blamed others for our troubles from time to time. In fact, the tendency to blame someone or something goes back a long way. When there were only 2 people on earth, it wasn't long before they started blaming. The man said, "It was the woman. She got me into this." And the woman blamed the serpent. Blame seems to be one of those negative tendencies that just comes naturally. The ego striving to defend itself. Remember the list I came up with to explain why I wasn't doing well? One of the items that was high on my list was prices. I told Mr. Schultz that my problem was everything costs too much. However, he soon set me straight on that by saying, "Mr. Rohn, that is not the problem. Let me tell you the real problem. You can't afford it. It's not it. If you keep dealing in it's, you will always be broke, unhappy, and disillusioned because you will never have enough. Don't deal in it's. Deal in you." When I finally learned to change my thinking from it to me, I changed my whole life. What a life-changing experience to finally meet someone who doesn't hesitate to put it on you or on your tendency to indulge in blame or procrastination. That is indeed a banner day when you meet someone who has learned how to skillfully and carefully attack the same problem that has kept you from doing very well, or kept you beneath your potential, or kept you off balance as to your own self-worth. It is so easy to mistake appearances for reality, to confuse the symptom with the real cause. Along with blame comes the third negative tendency we want to eliminate: excuses. Guess how many excuses we have? 1 million. And in the course of a lifetime, we will probably use them all, unless somebody finally comes along and blows all those excuses apart to make us come face to face with the real reasons for our current dilemma. Until that time, we will probably use another 1 million excuses to prevent ourselves from having $1 million. Here's one of the major questions I'll pose to you during this program. What are you going to do starting today that will make a difference in how your life works out? Good question, right? What are you going to do? See, if you don't do something starting today that will make a difference, guess what? It's going to be the same. And you can guess what the next 5 years are going to be like. Just look at the last 5. The next 5 years will be like the last 5 unless you, major key, make all the changes. Now here's another key question. What can you do starting today that will make a difference? That's a good question. What can you do? What can you do with economic chaos? What can you do with massive disappointment when it's all gone wrong? What can you do when it won't work, when you've run out of money, when you don't feel well, and it's all gone sour? What can you do? Well, let me give you the broad answer first. Here's what you can do. You can do the most remarkable things, no matter what happens. Hey, people can do incredible things, unbelievable things. A man can do the most amazing things with the most impossible circumstances. A woman can do the most remarkable things with the most disastrous circumstances. Hey, I found out kids can do remarkable things. That is, if they have remarkable things to do. I also found out if they don't have remarkable things to do, there's no telling what they'll do. Now, here's why humans can do remarkable things. It's because they are remarkable. They are not dogs, animals, fish, birds, amoebas. Humans are different than any other creation. When a dog starts with weeds, he winds up with weeds, and the reason is because he's a dog. But that's not true with human beings. Human beings can turn weeds into gardens. That's one of the major differences being a human versus being a dog. Humans can turn nothing into something, pennies into fortune, disaster into success. And the reason they can do such remarkable things is because they are remarkable. So why not reach down inside of you and come up with some more of those remarkable human gifts? They're there waiting to be discovered and employed. And with those gifts, change anything for you that you wish to change. And I challenge you to do that because you can change. If you don't like how it is for you, change it. If it isn't enough, change it. If it doesn't suit you, change it. If it doesn't please you, change it. And I challenge you to do all that because you can change. See, you don't ever have to be the same after today, only by choice. If you don't like your present address, change it. You're not a tree. Now for the process of change, just a philosophical pronouncement won't do. It takes more than that. And it takes more than enthusiasm. I know we are hearing a lot about enthusiasm these days. We're still hearing the old cliche of the 30s, to be enthusiastic, you must act enthusiastic. But see, that won't help. I'm sorry. Hey, after you have leaped about, there are some things you've got to do, or it isn't going to change for you. You can get all excited about lifting 200 pounds until you get to the gym. Then you need a new excitement. And the new excitement is discipline. Discipline, the major step to human progress. If there is one thing to get excited about, this is it. Get excited about your ability to make yourself do the necessary things to get a desired result. That's true excitement, not just optimistic panic. True excitement. Hey, what could you do starting today that would make a big difference in your life? Answer, no telling. What will some people do starting today? That's what's disappointing. It's not what we can do that's in question. What we can do is fantastic. What we can do is unbelievable. What we can do, it's what we settle for that's disappointing. Remember, the major question to ask on the job is not, what are you getting? The major question to ask is, what are you becoming? What we become is what leads to all the good things. And the habits we form, habits of mind, attitude, and behavior, are a dominant part of what we are becoming. Now, I understand as well as anyone that forming new habits doesn't come easy. But new habits will come when we change. It is usually not in one cataclysmic explosion, but rather by changing small pieces and parts at a time. I think that's how most of us change. We just keep nudging ourselves in the right direction, forming one or two new habits at a time, little by little, until finally we've made the turn. And this is where the good life comes from, those personal changes. There's nothing you can do with the seasons, but there's everything you can do with yourself. Don't wish for the winters to change. Wish for your own attitudes, strength, and capabilities to change in order to handle the winters. Really making personal changes calls for 10% inspiration and 90% perspiration. Wishing we could change is a beginning, but now wish must be translated into activity, and inspiration and affirmation must lead to discipline. We can affirm that we are going to change, but we must now form new habits and develop new disciplines for the affirmation to come true. Make sure your activities are not going in the opposite direction of your affirmation. Every new discipline affects the rest. Every new discipline makes a difference. That's why action is so important. The smallest action, the least action. The action that you won't think will matter. It all matters. Take it. Because when you start accomplishing and the value starts to return, you'll find inspiration to do the next one and the next one and the next one. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us. Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. It takes discipline to change a habit, because habits are formed a little bit each day, every day, every day. Once habits are formed, they act like a giant cable. They act like a nearly unbreakable instinct that only long-term disciplined activity can change.
You just got to go home and make a list after today. And here's the question to ask as you make this personal list. What am I not doing that would be easy to do? That could greatly change my health, my wealth? What am I not doing I'm neglecting that would be easy to do? Just go home and answer that question personally. You don't have to put the answers on a public bulletin board. This is just all personal stuff. But here's how you get a miracle going for your life. Number one, do what you can. Get a list of the stuff you could do and you haven't done, postpone, and start cleaning that up. You can't start at a better place for personal change. It'll affect your bank account, affect your future, affect your income, affect everything. You can't start a better life change process than cleaning up what you should be doing. The man says, well, my mother lives down in Florida. Should have written her 6 months ago. I just can't seem to get that letter written. I'm asking you to get that letter written, clean that up, and don't walk like other people walk. Don't postpone like other people postpone. You say, well, is it as simple as writing a letter? And the answer is yes. Where else would you start for life change, personal change? Now, here's the second part of the miracle. Number one is do what you can. Here's number two, do the best you can. If that's not your philosophy, I would ask you to amend it. Let me give you the best of ancient script. Here's what it says. Whatever your hands find to do, do it with all your might, do it with all your strength, and do it with all your power. What a good philosophy. That kind of philosophy will revolutionize your life if you haven't picked it up lately. Guy slips in late, company doesn't seem to mind, slips out early, first one in the parking lot, heading for happy hour. Stretches his break, comes early for lunch, late back from lunch, company doesn't seem to notice. Guy says, best as I can calculate, I'm putting in about a half a day's work and I'm collecting a full day's pay. Little does he know the seeds of his own disaster are already being sown by the weakness of his own personal philosophy. It's not the economy that's going to determine your next 6 years. It's your philosophy about labor and about activity and about miracle and soil and seed and sunshine and rain and the economy and the banks and the money and the companies and the schools and what's going on. It's your philosophy and your attitude and then your ability to take action. All of that we call the process of life change, miracle working.
Consistent self-discipline.
Set up a discipline when the emotions are high and the idea is strong and clear and powerful. That's the time to set up the discipline. Somebody talks about good health and you're stirred. Say, right, I need to get a book on nutrition. Get the book before the idea passes and before the emotion gets cold. Go for the book. Start the library. Start the process. Fall on the floor. Do some push-ups. Action. Got to take action. Otherwise, the wisdom is wasted. Otherwise, the emotion soon passes. Unless you put it into a disciplined activity. Capture it. Disciplines is called how to capture the emotion and how to capture the wisdom and translate it into equity. Disciplines. You start walking around the block, it'll inspire you to get an apple. Get an apple, it'll inspire you to get a book. Get a book, it'll inspire you to get a journal. Get a journal, it'll inspire you to grow, develop some skills. All disciplines affect each other. Every lack affects the rest. Every new affects the rest. The key is to diminish the lack and set up the new. And you've started a whole new life process. Also, one more thought on discipline. Here's the greatest value of discipline. Self-worth. Self-esteem. People are teaching self-esteem these days, but they don't connect it to disciplines. The least lack of discipline, and it starts to erode our psyche. One of the greatest temptations is to just ease up a little bit, right? The slightest lack of doing your best starts to erode the psyche. Instead of doing your best, doing just a little less than your best. Sure enough, you say, well, it's just going to affect my sales. No, it's going to affect your consciousness. It's going to affect your philosophy. Now you've begun in the slightest way to affect your own philosophy. Here's the problem with the least neglect. Neglect starts as an infection. And if you don't take care of it, it becomes a disease. And one neglect leads to another. And the worst of all, when neglect starts, it diminishes our self-worth, our self-confidence, our self-value. You say, well, how can I get back my self-respect? I'm telling you, you don't have to go to 29 classes. All you have to do is start the smallest discipline that now corresponds to your own philosophy, like I should, and I could, and I will. No longer will I let neglect stack up on me so that I will have the sorry scenario 6 years from now, giving some excuse instead of celebrating my progress. That's the key to discipline. Okay? Let's get kids involved in the least of disciplines. One more, and then one more, and then another one, and then another one, and then some more. And the first thing you know, you're starting to weave the tapestry of a disciplined life into which you can pour more wisdom and more attitude and more strong feeling, more faith and more courage. Now you've got something, a vessel in which to put it. And now the equities start to flow. And the early return, I'm telling you, if you'll start this process, the early return will have you so excited. You'll commit yourself to this strategy for the rest of your life. You'll never go back to the old ways. Join a new crowd. Join a new group. The disciplines to do it. Take action.
Now here's the other side of discipline. If there's considerable time that passes between the moment of awareness and the time of our implementation, then that is called procrastination. Procrastination. Doing it tomorrow instead of today. Procrastination. An almost exact opposite of discipline. The voice within us says, get it done. Discipline then says, do it now. Do it to the best of your ability, today. tomorrow, and always, until finally the worthy deed becomes instinctive. Procrastination says later, tomorrow, whenever I get a chance. Procrastination also says do what is necessary to get by or to impress others. Do what you can, but not what you must. In every circumstance we face, we are constantly presented with these two choices. Do it now or do it later. Discipline and procrastination. A choice between a disciplined existence, bearing the fruit of achievement and contentment, or procrastination, the easy life for which the future will bear no fruit, only the bare branches of mediocrity. The rewards of a disciplined life are great, but they're often delayed until some time in the future. The rewards for the lack of discipline are immediate, but they are minor in comparison to the immeasurable rewards of consistent self-discipline. An immediate reward for lack of discipline is a fun day at the beach. A future reward of discipline is owning the beach. For most, we choose today's pleasure rather than tomorrow's fortune. So how can you get rid of the easy distractions? How can you keep your mind on what you're trying to do? How can you keep an attitude of doing it all and doing it now? How can you make the choice of discipline over procrastination? How can you stay focused on your ambitions? How can you avoid conversations at the water cooler? You can keep your focus on your work. You can get it done today instead of tomorrow. You've got to really work on your consistent self-discipline on a daily basis, or you'll find yourself distracted. Distracted by negative thoughts, distracted by negative people, distracted by water cooler chatter, and pretty soon, depending on the type of people you've associated with, distracted by your doubts within yourself. Never underestimate the power of influence and associations, and never underestimate the power of your own consistent self-discipline. Now let's take a closer look at discipline, at the 3 steps to becoming disciplined. First, true discipline is not the easiest option. Most people would rather sleep until 10 o'clock than get up at 6. It's easier to go to bed late, sleep late, show up late, leave early. It's easier not to read. It's easier to turn on the television than to open a book. It's easier to do just enough than to do it all. Waiting is always easier than acting. Trying is always easier than doing. Imagine what life would be like if we didn't have to make our bed in the morning, or keep our garage clean, or pay our taxes, or show up for work tomorrow. Wouldn't it be fascinating if we didn't have to do these things? Wouldn't it be fascinating? What do you suppose would become of us? You're right. Not much. For whatever the reason, the system we live in and contribute to is designed to make the easiest things in life the most unprofitable. Profitable seems to be the most difficult. Our world is and always will be a constant battle between the life of ease and its momentary rewards and a life of discipline and its far more significant rewards. Each has its own price, the price of discipline or the price of regret. The second lesson of discipline is that it's a full-time activity. And we've said that the best form of discipline is consistent self-discipline. You see, the discipline that it takes to make your bed every day is the same discipline necessary for success in the world of business. The discipline to organize your garage is the same discipline to organize your business. All disciplines carry through to affect all parts of our lives. If we're disciplined in just one area and lazy in another, guess what? Pretty soon, the lazy side will creep in and destroy the disciplined side. The bad habits in one area of our life will eventually destroy our self-discipline in the areas we've been working on. Consistency cannot be inconsistent. Discipline is the mind being trained to control our lives. Discipline is a set of standards which we've selected as a personal code of conduct. Discipline is imposing on ourselves the requirements for honoring these standards. Once we've adopted these standards of behavior and conduct, we're committed to honor them. And if we don't, then there can be no disciplined activity. Here's the third step to becoming consistently self-disciplined. Number 1 is realizing that discipline isn't the easiest option. Number 2, discipline is a full-time activity, day by day, every day. And the third step to becoming self-disciplined is really a philosophy that holds one of life's unique promises. Number 3 simply says, for every disciplined effort, there is a multiple reward. That's one of life's great arrangements. Life is full of laws that both govern and explain behaviors. But this may well be the major law we need to understand. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. For every disciplined effort, a multiple reward. What a concept. If you render unique service, your reward will be multiplied. If you're fair and honest and patient with others, your reward will be multiplied. If you give more than you expect to receive, your reward is more than you expect. But remember, the key word here, as you might well imagine, is discipline. Everything of value requires care and attention. Everything of value requires discipline. Children require discipline. They must have a structure built for them. They must have boundaries to work within so they feel secure and comfortable to explore and grow. They must learn to recognize what's right and what's wrong, what's acceptable behavior, what's not acceptable. Children require unwavering discipline, consistent discipline, or they'll be confused as to how they're supposed to behave. The most valuable form of discipline is the one that you impose on yourself. Don't wait for things to deteriorate so drastically that someone else must impose discipline into your life. Wouldn't that be tragic? How could you possibly explain the fact that someone else thought more of you than you thought of yourself? That they forced you to get up early and get out into the marketplace when you would have been content to let success go to someone else who cared more about themselves. Your life, my life, the life of each one of us is going to serve as either a warning or an example. In the end, it is your own discipline that acts as the magic catalyst to give substance and depth to your ambition, to achieve your own plans and dreams, to have what you want to have, and to become what you want to become. Your consistent self-discipline is the magic catalyst. Of all the subjects we've covered so far and are about to cover, none is more important than covering the disciplines for success. What's at the core of achieving the good life? The major key to the good life. The major key is not in learning how to set goals. It is not in learning how to better manage your time. It is not in mastering the attributes of leadership. Every day in 1,000 different ways, we are trying to improve ourselves by learning how to do things. We spend a lifetime gathering knowledge in classrooms, in textbooks, in experiences. Now, if knowledge is power, if knowledge is the forerunner to success, then why do we fall short of our objectives? Why, in spite of all our knowledge and in spite of our collective experiences, do we find ourselves aimlessly wandering, settling for a life of existence rather than a life of substance? There may be many answers to this question. Your answers may be different than your associates or your spouses or your friends. While there may be many answers to this question, the fundamental answer is the absence of discipline. Applying all that we know. That's the key word. Discipline, self-discipline. We might add one more word here, consistent. Consistent self-discipline. It doesn't really matter how smart you are or how much you know if you don't use it. It doesn't really matter that you graduated magna cum laude if you're stuck in a low-paying job. It doesn't really matter if you attended every seminar that comes to town if you don't apply what you've learned. Better than knowledge is applied knowledge. And once we've applied our knowledge, we must study the results of that process. Apply our knowledge, study the results. Refine our approach. Finally, by trying and observing and refining and trying again, our knowledge will inevitably produce worthy results, admirable results. And with the joy and results of our efforts, we continue to apply, to learn, to observe, to fuel our ambition with the positive reinforcement of continued progress. Pretty soon, we'll find that we're swept into a spiral of achievement, a vertical rise to success. And the ecstasy of that total experience makes for a life of triumph over tragedy, dullness, and mediocrity. But for this whole process to work for us, we must first master the art of discipline, self-discipline, consistent self-discipline. It takes consistent self-discipline to master the art of setting goals, to master the art of time management, to master the art of leadership, to master the art of parenting and relationships. If we don't make consistent self-discipline part of our daily lives, the results we seek will be sporadic and elusive. It takes a consistent effort to truly manage our valuable time, or we'll be consistently frustrated. Our time will be eaten up by others whose demands are stronger than our own. It takes discipline to conquer the nagging voices in our minds, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of poverty, the fear of a broken heart. It takes discipline to keep trying when that nagging voice within us brings up the possibility of failure. It takes discipline to admit our errors and recognize our limitations. The voice of the human ego speaks to all of us. Sometimes the voice of ego says that we should magnify our value beyond our results. It leads us to exaggerate, to not be totally honest. It takes discipline to be totally honest, both with ourselves and with others. Be certain of one thing: every exaggeration of the truth, once detected by others, destroys our credibility and makes all that we say and do suspect. As soon as a business colleague figures out that we tend to exaggerate, guess what? They'll always think we exaggerate, and they'll never quite hold us in the same regard again. Never. The tendency to exaggerate, distort, or even withhold the truth is an inherent part of all of us. It starts when we're kids. Johnny says, "I didn't do it. I didn't do it." Well, maybe Johnny didn't do it, but he probably had something to do with it. And then it continues when we're adults, exaggerating the benefits of a product to make a sale, exaggerating our net worth to impress old friends, exaggerating how close we are to closing a deal to impress the boss. And only an all-out, disciplined assault can overcome this tendency. Method of executing that plan if the results are poor. It takes discipline to be firm when the world throws opinions at our feet. It takes discipline to ponder the value of someone else's opinion when our pride and our arrogance leads us to believe that we are the only ones with the answers. With this consistent discipline applied to every area of our lives, we can discover untold miracles and uncover unique possibilities and opportunities.
Develop the ability to share. And sharing now can become a major part of your life process and life progress.
Sharing is a unique human capacity. Everybody has the ability to share. How much you share, of course, is a matter of attitude and the personal conclusions you've come to about your life and what to do about it. But sharing is unique. Here's what's unique about sharing. The more you give, the more you become. It's one of the paradoxes of life. You give away, but you become bigger. It would look like if you would share, you'd become less. But see, that's not true. It's one of those unique life processes. It's like one of those questions you ask when you have your first child. You love it dearly. You say, well, if I have another child, do I have to divide my love in half? And the answer is surprisingly no. From somewhere comes this unbelievable capacity to love the other one as much as you did the first one. What if you have 3, 4, 5 children? Now, are each one of them going to get less and less and less the capacity of your ability to love and care? And the answer is, strangely, no. As the demand and the opportunity increases, it seems as though your capacity grows. And what you give away seems to multiply. It's one of the mysteries and the uniqueness of life. So sharing makes you bigger. Now here's one of the reasons to share. Share on purpose so that you become bigger, not only for the effect that it will have on other people, but for the effect it will have on you. See, what we want to learn to be is intelligently selfish. The golden rule is a way to be intelligently selfish. The golden rule says, if you want this big flow coming from lots of people, nothing wrong with that. But if you want this big flow coming from lots of people, here's what you must do. Here's the formula. Now that's sort of being intelligently selfish, isn't it? This big flow of awareness and love and profit and uniqueness coming from lots of people, that's a bit selfish, but it says, the golden rule says, here's how you get it. It says, what? First 3 words. Do for others. See, that's how you get this big flow coming your way. And the more you do for more, the bigger the flow. That's called how to be intelligently selfish. The guy says, well, about the best I can do is take care of myself. Well, that's a poor man talking. Always will be poor. Poor in spirit and poor in money and poor every other way. If you just take care of yourself, you will be limited in every respect. The master teacher said, here's the key to wealth and fortune. He who wishes to be great, the greatest, Muhammad Ali notwithstanding. He who wishes to be the greatest, whether it's in wealth or awareness or uniqueness or response or results, here's the key to wealth, master teacher said. Find a way to become a servant of many. That's the key to greatness. Finding a way to become a servant of many. See, the best way to cure your own bills is to be concerned about other people's bills. The best way to get your own car notes paid is to worry about other people's car note, not yours. If you worry about yours, it'll be hard to pay. Worry about others, it'll be easy to pay. See, when you get concerned for other people, what can I do to help you and help you and help you and help you? The more people I help, the more return I get, even if it's only a small percentage. People say, well, I'm grateful here. Thanks for helping me here. You just can't believe. One of my friends went to another one of our mutual wealthy friends and said, I've got a project. William, his name was William, said, William, if I put this project together and it creates $4 million for you, will you give me one? If I put this together and it creates for you $4 million, will you give me one? Guess what he said? Yes. If you put this together and it creates for me 4 million, I'll be happy to give you one. I'll be satisfied with 3. See, that's part of the unique life process. If you help other people, guess what they will do? Share back with you. It's one of those inevitables. Now, once in a while, somebody's mean and greedy and upsets this process, but there's not enough of them to make a difference. Incredible. One of my dear friends now, Wayne Barnes. Wayne is 32 years old. I guess he's about 33 years old now. He's a multimillionaire. He lives in Phoenix. He's a builder, commercial builder. Has this beautiful home on the side of Camelback Mountain. Cost $1.3 million. Wayne Barnes attended my seminar 13 years ago in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He was just a young kid, 20 years old, had just gotten married. He and Rosie come to the seminar. Wayne gets all excited, takes all these notes, and he comes up to me after the seminar and says, Mr. Rohn, my name is Wayne Barnes. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'm excited about all this. He said, I've never heard about this before. He said, I'm going to start setting my goals, changing my life, get my library started. I said, Wayne, nice to meet you. I hope you will. He said, I will. He said, by the way, where's your next seminar? I said, Denver. He said, I'll see you in Denver. Follows me to Denver, to the next seminar. He comes this time with his tape recorder, tapes it. That was back before we had the cassette tape program going. And took some more notes. Him and Rosie are there saying, this is really the greatest stuff. And he comes up to me and he says, remember me? I said, yeah, Wayne, I remember you. He said, this is great stuff. He said, I tell you what. He said, I'm going to get rich, change my life. I'm going to help a lot of people. And he's just bubbling and going. He said, where's your next seminar? I said, Phoenix. He said, I'll be there. He follows me to Phoenix. Sits there again, takes some more notes, this third seminar. Well, to make a long story short, Wayne Barnes is now a multi-millionaire. And he's done extremely well. And he's become one of my very, very dear friends. Wayne probably has one of the finest libraries in the world that I know of. Especially somebody that age, 33 years old. He got the book Think and Grow Rich. He got his journal started. I mean, he did everything, just followed everything. You know, you just, once in a while, find somebody that just does everything. That's what I did when I met Show. Tell me when to get up. Tell me when to go to bed. Right? Tell me what to do. I mean, my plan hasn't been working. I'm willing to follow yours. Right to the detail, whatever. And Wayne Barnes was one of those people that just did it all. And now he's wealthy. When he was building his home, just before he had it finished, just about finished, he took me up on the 3rd floor, takes me on a tour through his home. And he said, Jim, he said, I can't believe it. I've become wealthy. He said, we've done well, haven't we, the last 10, 12 years? I said, we sure have, Wayne. He said, I got to thank you for all of this. He said, by the way, I got to show you something. He shows me this unique-looking room up on the 3rd floor overlooking the city. He said, how do you like the view from here? I said, it's spectacular. He said, how do you like this room? I said, it's fabulous. He said, do you like the way it's furnished? I said, it's unusual. He said, well, he said, you might like to know that's your room. He said, whenever you come to Phoenix, now here's where you got to stay. You got to stay with me. He said, I just want to show my gratitude for all the stuff I've learned. Now I'm wealthy, and I got you now a place in my house, up on the 3rd floor, specially furnished. So see, that's part of the reward of sharing. I got me a room in Phoenix, right? I'm telling you, if you'll share, you'll get you a room. And that's not the end of the story. In fact, I just got a card. I wonder if I put it in here somewhere. I just got a card from Wayne Barnes. It says, Dear Jim, I called you when I was in town in late April. We just sailed from Jamaica to the Bahamas. And next is Nassau. Will you join us soon? Wayne calls me a few months ago to come down to the Balboa Bay Club. And when I get down there, He said, I got to show you something. I said, Wayne, what have you got now? He said, you got to see my ship. Unbelievable. He walks me out on this 73-foot sailing schooner. And this is the picture of it right here, called Windhaven. It's a famous 73-foot ketch, neat ship. And he said, I've got me a sailing ship. I said, what are you going to do with this thing, right? There's not much water around Phoenix, right? No, he said, Rosie and I have got the bug about sailing. And he said, we've got us a captain. We've hired us a captain. I said, incredible. So he finds his captain and introduces him to me. Oars was his name, which I thought was a good name for a captain. Oars. I said, Wayne, what are you going to do? He said, look, Rosie and I and the 2 kids, we're going to take off a couple of years, and we're going to sail around the world. He said, you talk to me about lifestyle. And said, this is just part of our lifestyle. And he said, I want you to join us. Do a little sailing with us in the next couple of years. So I promised him I would. So he shows me the ship. And as we go through, he shows me all the furnishings and everything, right? And then he shows me this room. Says, how do you like this room? I said, it's fabulous. Do you like what's in it? I said, it's fabulous. He said, that's your room. So I got me a room on a ship. How lucky can you get? See, if you will share, no telling what will come back your way if you'll share. Be concerned about helping somebody else with their language and help them with their lifestyle and help them with their philosophical conclusions. Help them with learning better the taste of life and the uniqueness of life. Help them with their financial plan. Ask a few questions. Wayne Barnes is one of those people who shares. Wayne gives away the book Think and Grow Rich and As a Man Thinketh. Now that I've got mine, I'm sure he'll probably give mine away. But he buys them by the box. As a Man Thinketh and Think and Grow Rich. He buys them by the box. And every person he meets that he takes a liking to, he says, hey, I got a book for you. And he writes a little note in it and hands it to him. And now there must be thousands of these books circulating around that Wayne Barnes has given away. Part of his way of just sharing, part of his way of passing along something that he's come into possession with that he thought was valuable. But see, that's what can happen to you if you share. If you share. What all of us want to do in consciousness and awareness is become bigger. This cup will not hold a gallon. Why? It's too small. What if you poured a gallon all around this cup? See, it still will only hold this much because it's too small. Now, see, some people are so small in their thinking and their awareness, you could pour happiness all around them. They're not going to get any. They're too little in their thinking and their awareness and their acceptance. It doesn't matter how much happiness is available. They're not going to get very much. And you're not going to get very much happiness out of the next experience if you don't grow, if you don't expand. And one of the best ways to expand in your consciousness is by sharing. Touch somebody else's life. Touch somebody else's experience. Give somebody else some information. Right? Pass along a book or a recommendation or, share what you've got. And sure enough, your capacity grows and grows and grows. Now when joy is passed out, you get 3 times as much as you used to. And somebody wonders, how come you're happier now this year than you were last year? And it's simply because you're growing. Happiness is always available, but you can only have what you can hold. Prosperity is always available, but you can only keep what you can hold. So what you want to do is create this capacity, this awareness, this growth experience, so that when joy and happiness and prosperity and unique things are passed out, you get to hold more. Now, you must also understand that you can also hold more sadness. But sadness is a life experience. You can hold more disappointment, but disappointment is a life experience. But see, now with the depth of awareness and understanding, you hold it and it becomes not bitter, but it becomes commodity. It becomes experience. It becomes valuable. so that when you talk to the next person that's going through some difficult times, you can reach them with your experience because you've been there. You've tasted it. So we all want to grow in our awareness and taste and capacity. Sharing. A major thing to do when this weekend is over is deliberately figure ways to share. Now, there's a lot of things to share. Share your money. Share your time. Share your knowledge. Share your feelings. Don't be afraid to share those. That kind of sharing has incredible value. And people who share with us, see what great value that is. My daughters and I are very close. Linda, especially, she calls me just constantly. She was going to take a trip. She said, Daddy, I wanted to call you in case I didn't get to call the next 2 or 3 days. Just to tell you that you happen to be talking to your greatest fan. She says, have you gotten any applause lately? I said, well, I don't know. She says, well, here's some applause. And on the telephone, she's going like this. She said, just remember that when you take your next trip. You have somebody who cares. And remember the applause. And I love you dearly. Just the words and the actions and the sharing and the capacity. See, that's what fills your cup. That's what gives you this incredible uniqueness of living, knowing what it's like to be human in all respects. People who share. Incredible. Then one of the most important things to share is your philosophy. Your perception of life is bound to help somebody. If you show somebody your viewpoint, your vantage point, sure enough, it's going to be revealing to somebody else. You say, here's what I've been thinking about life and about activity and about money and about commerce and about lifestyle. Here's what I'm thinking. If you will share that with somebody, sure enough, somebody's going to come back and say, remember that breakfast we had, the lunch we had, or when we got together that day 3 or 4 months ago, and you talked about those things? I've never forgotten that. In fact, I've started to make changes in my life already. You can't believe the feedback you'll get. Because see, part of the return is not just a room or some money or some percentages. Part of it is the thanks. One of the reasons I do what I do is for the letters and the stories and the people who come back and say, let me tell you what's happening to me. I'm using this stuff and it's changing my life. See, that's heavy. You can't buy that with money. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are. You can only buy it by sharing. You can only earn it, rather, by sharing. And I go for that. I go for the stories. I probably get as much joy out of other people's success as I do my own. The stories you'll come back and share with me, or the letters you write, or the contact you make and say, here's what's happening to me. I'll be just as excited about that as I will my own success and what's happening to me. I revel in that. I take great joy in it. One of the reasons I do what I do. For that kind of experience of people who say, what you said made a difference for me. See, that's awesome. And guess how many of us can share our ideas? Everybody. You don't have to have a class of 200. You don't have to have a seminar of 1,000. Start with one. That's the way I started, awkwardly with one. Let me tell you when I gave my first goal seminar. When I was 25 years old, I met Mr. Schoaf. One morning at breakfast, he asked me, let me see your current list of goals. Remember that story in the evening seminar? So he gave me this little formula on goals. Work on your goals, write them down, right? Consider the size and what kinds of goals so that they will affect you properly. He gave me this little goal formula that morning at breakfast. Guess when I shared it? At lunch. I got a hold of Charlie Garrett. I said, Charlie, let's have lunch. Charlie was a good friend of mine. We had a couple of projects going together. I said, Charlie, I've met this man. Let me tell you what's happening to me. He gave me this little formula for setting goals. I've never heard it before. I'm going to change my whole life. I get together with Charlie, and I show him all this. I said, Charlie, write this down, write this down, write this down. Let me show you what the man showed me. I said, I'm going to use it to change my life. And why don't we do it together? Let's do it together. You've been a clod just like me, right? As I recall now, that was my first attack, right? I said, hey, we've been poor together. We've been just, knocking around together. Now it's time, let's get rich together. Charlie said, wow, that looks interesting. That was really when I first shared it. It was the day I heard it. I passed it along. It wasn't a seminar of 1,000 people. It was Charlie Garrett. And Charlie was a little startled by my enthusiasm and my excitement, but at least I shared it. So just share. You can't believe what will happen as far as your life and your lifestyle if you'll share. Okay. Here's the last subject under personal development. But it's one of the most important. It's called lifestyle. One of the major projects to work on is how to get joy from your substance. Lifestyle is figuring out ways to be unique. And see, uniqueness is that great challenge of taking what you've got and getting pleasure, joy from it. Getting experience from it. See, some people have money, but they don't even know how to spend it. At least they don't know how to spend it for joy. And remember, it's not the amount that counts, it's the plan that counts, it's the thinking that counts. A father wads up a $5 bill, throws it at his son, and says, here, take the darn stuff if you need it that bad. See, same $5, right? Same $5. Only instead of being dispensed with joy, it's dispensed with animosity. Now the father gets no joy from the $5 by wadding it up and throwing it. See, that's not how you get joy from it. It's the same money, but it depends on how you spend it. It depends on how you give it. And how you give it is called lifestyle. And Shoaff taught me lifestyle in the simplest little ways. Shoaff taught me how to be a two-quarter person. So I didn't understand what that meant. He said, well, let's say you're getting your shoes shined, and the shoe shining boy's done a great job. And he's whistled and talked and kept you entertained, and you look down, you got one of the world's great shines. So you reach in your pocket and you pay him. Now, after you've paid him, you reach in your pocket and get a handful of change. And the thought occurs to you, shall I give him 1/4 or 2/4 for a tip for my fabulous shine? Shoaff said, here's lifestyle. If two amounts pop in your mind for giving, like 1/4 or 2/4, Shoaff said, always go for the higher amount. He said, become a 2/4 person. I said, well, what difference would that make? He said, all the difference in the world, being a 1/4 person versus a 2/4 person. Now, you got 1/4 or 2/4, so it's not the amount that's going to be the problem. The problem is how you spend it. See, that was unique. He said, if you're thinking 2/4, look at my shine, I better go for 2/4. And they say, well, no, I'll just give him 1. He said, that will affect you the rest of the day. It'll bother you. Sure enough, right in the middle of the day, you'll look down, see your shine, and say, I got to be cheap. 1 lousy quarter. He said, it'll affect you. But he said, if you go for the 2/4, he said, that'll affect you the rest of the day. You'll be happier. Shoaff said, you cannot believe the good feelings you can buy for just a 1/4. See, I didn't understand that. Then I learned it's not the amount. It's the thought. It's the idea. Become a 2/4 person. Shoaff taught me what the word tip meant. So I didn't understand. I'm from farm country Idaho. What do I know about tip, right? He says, do you know what tip means? T-I-P. Comes from a phrase. What is it? To ensure promptness. Shoaff said tip means to ensure promptness. Now, he said, if that's true, if tip is to ensure promptness, when should you give it? Up front. See, I didn't know that. He said, sophisticated people always ensure good service. They don't take a chance. I thought, wow, what a way to live. I always thought, well, you waited till the meal was over, see whether or not you got good service, and then tip. He said, no, 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 not sophisticated people. You don't wait and see. You ensure. Wow. Makes all the difference in the world, right? You're taking a couple of people to lunch, right? And you calculate, let's see, the tip will be about so much, right? You call Mary over and say, Mary, right? Arm around the shoulder. Mary, here's $10. Would you take good care of me and my friends? You won't believe the service. They do what's known as hover. I mean, they hover right around your table. Otherwise, you can never find them. I mean, where's my waitress? Where's my waitress? All the difference in the world. Same money, see, but it's called giving it up front instead of behind. Now, it doesn't mean you can do it every time, but it means you just think of ways to be unique. Think of ways, right? It works wonders. I took a neat lady, this has been a couple of years ago. We went to the Beverly Hilton Hotel to the Trader Vic's restaurant, close by where I used to live. And we're all excited about going to Trader Vic's, Beverly Hills, nice place to entertain. And when we get there, we drive up in front of Trader Vic's, and two attendants come out. One opens one door, one opens the other door. And they let out my lady friend. The other gentleman lets me out, says, Mr. Rohn, nice to have you here. And my lady's already impressed. He said, have a good meal. I said, we certainly will. So we leave, right, go into the restaurant, have this fabulous meal. When we come out of Trader Vic's, as we walk out the door, there is my car sitting right there. Both doors are open, and the motor is running. My lady can't believe. She said, I've never seen service like this. I said, hey, this is really great. So one attendant lets my lady friend in, right? On the other side, another one lets me in. They close the doors. Says, Mr. Rohn, it's been nice to have you here. Have a nice evening. I say, thank you very much, and I drive away. When we get to about the first light down on Wilshire Boulevard, my lady friend looks over at me. She says, Jim, hold it just a minute. I said, what is it? She said, I just thought of something. I said, what's that? She said, you forgot to tip him at Trader Vic's. After all that service, you didn't give him any money. I said, hey, look, it'll be okay. She said, oh, no. We got to go back. We got to go back. Go back. I said, hey, take my word for it. It's okay. She said, no. We got to go back. I mean, we're not going any further. You got to, for that kind of service, you got to tip the money. And then I had to tell her that I made my first trip to Trader Vic's that morning. Incredible. Lifestyle. Somebody once said, money takes no right out of the English language. If money is no problem, would you? Yes. You don't even have to go any further. But it doesn't take that much. You don't really have to be wealthy. All you have to be is smart. Smart, intelligence. Intellect is the measure of value. It is said the saints lived simply, not because they were holier, but because they were smarter. Could be they were wiser. The simple things of life can many times be the most valuable. Lifestyle, learning how to spend your money, learning what to do with it, anticipating versus waiting till the last minute. It's called lifestyle. A man in Detroit, Michigan, came to the seminar many years ago. Decided he was going to change his whole life. He said, Mr. Rohn, I got some major changes to make. And he said, you're going to be happy with my progress. I said, I don't doubt that. And sure enough, when I came back, a few months later, he already told me some neat stories. He said, one is, I've just been living this narrow life. He said, I've got 2 teenage daughters. And he said, it just hasn't been going that well. And he said, I can now see some of the major problems. And he said, I've been causing them. He said, let me tell you one little story. He said, my daughters like to go to some of the rock and roll concerts, right? And he said, sure enough, when it comes time for one of these big concerts to come to town, you know, my daughters come and they beg and they do all kinds of things to try, you know, finally get a couple of dollars out of me so they can go attend the concert. And he said, give them all these lectures, and reluctantly, finally, I part with my money and say, well, okay, if you insist, here's the money, but I hope there's not another one in a long time. He said, that's the way I operated, reluctantly. He said, most of the time, I even made him beg. And he said, now I can see that's not the way to live. And then he told me the story. After he decided to change his life and change his whole lifestyle and his procedure, he said, I'm going through the paper one day and I found out one of the rock concerts is coming to town, and it's one of my girl's favorite rock stars coming to town. So he said, now with my new life in view, he said, I go down and buy the tickets. And he said, I brought him home. When they got home from school that day, he said, I handed him an envelope and said, here are your tickets to the next concert. He said, the begging days are over. He said, my daughters couldn't believe what had happened. He said they were so happy, terribly excited. So he gives them the envelope. Now he says, don't open the envelope until the evening of the concert when you get there. They said, okay. So comes the evening of the concert, and his 2 daughters rush off to the concert. When they get there, they hand the usher the envelope. They open it up, right? And inside, they take out the tickets. And the usher says, follow me. Takes them down front. 10th row, center. They can't believe. They say, hey, wait a minute, hold it. Let's take a look at those tickets again. This can't be. He looks at the ticket and says, yes, it is. Just follow me. 10th row, center. See, before then, all the tickets they begged for were way back up in the balcony right, where you couldn't see. They couldn't believe it, 10th row center. He said that night, a little late, just to see what would happen. He said, sure enough, concert's over. Girls come home about midnight, bursting through the door. One lands in his lap. One's got her arms around his neck. They say, you have got to be probably the greatest father who ever lived. And he said, guess what those tickets cost me? $8. $8. You can't believe how for such small amounts you can change your whole life by changing your attitude, your procedure, your lifestyle, anticipating versus being reluctant, figuring out ways to do it with joy instead of animosity. Lifestyle. If there's one thing to start working on in a heavy way after you leave here this weekend, is figuring ways to be unique. Remember, it's not the amount that counts. It's the plan that counts. Lifestyle, learning how to live. See, once you've put this all together, you will anticipate every day. You can't wait for the morning to come. You can't wait to get started. You can't wait to get at it. You can't wait to put your plan into action. You can't wait for all the little surprises you've got ready for some people. You can't wait to execute lifestyle and be more productive and progressive and learn and grow. And of all of the things we've covered here in these 2 days, this is one of the things that can affect your life so much that now it will be an investment in your progress. It'll be an investment in your language. You can't believe what it'll do in getting you a promotion on the job. All things will reflect what you do concerning how you live, lifestyle, and what you do about your family and yourself and your money and your substance and your time and your talent and your ability. Don't just live your life. Design it. Don't just exist. Grow. Change. Develop. Become unique. And it'll add a whole new dimension to your life. It's called lifestyle, part of personal development.
Time and considered to be America's foremost business philosopher. He has been sharing his success philosophies for over 40 years to over 4 million people worldwide. Jim Rohn has helped motivate and train an entire generation of personal development trainers, as well as hundreds of executives from America's top corporations. He is a master motivator, author, and a living legend. Welcome, Jim.
Wow, Chris, thank you very much.
Yeah, good to have you here.
I'll take you with me around the world. Just to introduce me.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, we were talking as we did the run-through for the promo there about being a living legend, and you really are. I mean, you have had an incredible life, an exceptional life, where you've been able to influence so many people. How do you go from the kid that you started out to, where you're at now, speaking all over the world? How do you get started in that?
Well, part of it is living long enough to have a chance to be a legend, right?
There you go.
And I just celebrated birthday number 75. But 25 years old, I'm living in Idaho, where I was born and raised. And, I'm married. I've got a little family started and struggling to pay my bills, but, working hard and doing the best I can. And then you've heard the story. I get this knock on the door, and there's a little Girl Scout selling Girl Scout cookies. And she gives me this incredible presentation. Girl Scouts, best organization in the world. Everybody wants to support the Girl Scouts. We've got these cookies, only $2. And she very politely asked me to buy. No problem. I wanted to buy. Big problem. I didn't have $2 in my pocket. And I'm not destitute, but my pockets are empty. I'm a grown man. I'm 25 years old. I've been to 1 year of college. I got a little family going. I live in America, and I don't have the $2 in my pocket. And I didn't want to tell her that, so I did what I thought was next best. I lied to her. And I said, hey, look, I've already bought lots of Girl Scout cookies. We've still got plenty in the house we haven't eaten yet. She said, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And she leaves. When she leaves, I say to myself, I don't want to live like this anymore. I mean, how low can you get lying to a Girl Scout, right?
Exactly.
So that was one of those days I call the day that turns your life around.
Yeah.
When I really made the commitment, I must start a search for finding ways to do better. I always wanted to, but I just hadn't found the person or the ways. Shortly after that, I found someone who became my mentor over a 5-year period. After that, between ages 25 and 30, 31, what he taught me made me a millionaire, entrepreneur, changed my life, refined my philosophy, helped me develop skills and disciplines that I didn't have before. Totally revolutionized my life over that 5-year period. And that was the beginning of my change of mind and circumstances. And then that led to where I am today.
I wonder how many people have that dramatic moment like you did. You shut that door and you went, I just lied to a Girl Scout person. Some people could have just said, well, I had to do what I had to do.
Yeah.
Other people like yourself say, never again.
Yeah, you don't know. I call it the mystery and the magic. Why one experience affects a person one way and another person passes it off and doesn't let it change their life for the better. Or they might not do it now, and maybe later something else will happen, and that'll be the moment. You just don't know. As you know, lecturing, giving seminars, teaching, training, you know, why some people pick it up, do something with it, change their lives, and others don't.
I remember at the 2004 Weekend Leadership event, we had someone come back who had been to the 2001, and they were in real estate, and they had bought some outrageous amount of real estate, you know, $50 million in the last, because they walked out of the last one and said. And then another guy was there, and he said, I was at the same one, but he went out and did it, and I didn't. Well, he was back for 2004. He said, in 2007, he said, I'm coming back, and I will have built my fortune.
Yeah, that's part of the mystery. You know, I've written how many books now? 5 or 6, and I should have written 26. So what happened to those other 20 books? That's the mystery. You know, the magic is the 6, and the mystery is the 20 that are missing. So we're a bit of a mystery to ourselves, right?
Yeah, sure.
I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I had the skills, but I didn't put them to work. So we all have a bit of that. But then the things we do that sort of dramatically change our life, that's the magic. That's the power.
Yeah.
Part of it is the law of averages. You know, I tell this little Bible story about the sower went out to sow the seed, and he was highly ambitious and he had good seed, but the first part of the seed that he sowed, the birds got. And then the next, he keeps going, and the next seed falls on stony ground where the soil is shallow. And the little plant starts to grow, and the first hot day it withers and dies. So he keeps on going. The next seed that he sowed fell on thorny ground.
Yeah.
The little plant starts to grow, and then the thorns choke it to death. And it called the thorns little cares, little things that keep people from doing the bigger things. And then finally, he keeps on sowing, and the seed falls finally on good ground. But then the good ground was a bit of an interesting idea, that some of it produced 30%, some of it produced 60, and some of it produced 100. So it's the full range from the birds getting some and the hot weather and the thorns to the good ground, even though good ground has a variety of 30, 60, 100. So when I started out lecturing, I wondered why I couldn't get everybody to do the 100%. Then I found out, you know, this is not to be,
Right.
you know. So that when I say to John, you should have been at the meeting last night, and he said, well, hey, the screen door came off the hinges. I had to fix and do some repairs. And so I say, now I understand that some people are going to let little things cheat them out of doing better things. But maybe that'll change.
Yeah.
You know, a week from now, somebody wakes up and has an experience like I did with the Girl Scout, and everything changes. So the door usually is always open, unless somebody totally resists the idea of self-improvement. But I think there's enough experiences along the way to prod us and push us a little bit. Or we hear a testimonial, or we read a book,
Right.
or somebody buys us a ticket and we go to a seminar, and we're never the same again. You share an idea with someone, 2 people. One of them says, I see it, and the other one says, it isn't clear to me. You say, why not? It's perfectly clear when you shared it.
Yeah. Why can't you see what I see?
Yeah, true. How come you don't feel like I feel? So you have to allow for that. And then we have to allow for it happening even in our own experience, like me with the missing books. I should have, and I didn't. I let it go, and I should have picked it up. So I guess the key is to do the best we can, and the key is to keep learning from every experience possible. Our own personal experiences, or from someone else's experiences, by sermon, the lyrics of a song, a personal testimonial someone gives you sitting at Denny's for a Tuesday morning breakfast, and something clicks and something happens. You never know.
Yeah, those moments are kind of a mixture of everything coming together, right timing and your own personal circumstances. So you end up going to work for Earl Shoaff, and you had lots of lessons to learn. What were
over
some
that
of those?
6-year, 7-year period, He was with me about 5 years, then he died, but at the early age of 49.
Huh.
But those were such dramatic days of incredible change. And the stuff he taught, he only went to the 9th grade in school, so he put things very simply. For the excuses I gave, he said, no, those are not the reasons. I said, things cost too much. He said, no, you can't afford them. You know, little philosophies like that opened my eyes to see.
What was the story where you brought him a paycheck? You said, this is all they pay.
Yeah, this is all they pay.
I
He
love
said,
this.
no, this is all they pay you. I thought, oh, you're right, I guess. He said, don't some at the company make 3, 4, 5 times as much? And I said, well, yes. And he said, well, this is not all they pay. This is all they pay you.
Yeah.
If you qualified for the 10 times this, wouldn't they pay you that amount? And I said, I guess they would, of course. He said, well, let's go to work on that.
Yeah.
We don't have to go to work on the company for more pay. We got to go to work on you to become more qualified.
Yeah, they have pay structure already set up
Yeah,
for some
already
people.
set up.
You got to fit into that.
And then when in my lectures, I show this little economic staircase, ladder to climb.
Yeah.
Starts at $5 an hour and goes all the way up to $32 million for 1 year.
Right.
1 year's annual income. And somewhere along the way, by what we hear and what we experience, we try to make ourselves better qualified for the next move up.
Yeah.
And that's the key, is to keep moving up, keep growing, keep developing, see what all you can do with your life.
What he was really the first person to give you the idea of personal development, right? What kinds of things was he telling you about the importance of developing yourself? What were some of those lessons that he taught you?
One he used, which really got my attention, he said, why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? I'm 25 years old. He said, this is America, land of opportunity. Why don't you set a goal to become a millionaire? And then he said, for what it will make of you to achieve it. And I thought, wow, that's a whole different philosophy. Set a goal to become a millionaire for the person you have to become in order to be worth $1 million. Then he said, once you've become a millionaire, you can give the money away, because what's important is not what you got, but the person you became. And I got the message. And that's where I started hearing those phrases from him. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Bringing value to the marketplace is how you get paid. The more value you bring to the marketplace, the better your pay. And also you get paid for what you become. A leader, an entrepreneur, a manager, somebody who has the ability to inspire other people.
So somebody's watching and they're saying, okay, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. And they agree with it in principle. They say, yeah, that sounds right. I know I need to work on myself. What would you recommend people do?
I started out with developing a list of skills I didn't have. I'm raised in farm country, southwest Idaho.
Right.
I know how to milk cows, but the pay's not good.
That's right.
So the first thing, and I started part-time, a little sales adventure on how to get customers. It was in health and nutrition. And I believed in the product, and I was taught, here's how you get a customer. And then here's how you ask them, who do they know that wants to be healthier? Then expand your business from there. So that was the first extra skill I learned from just the regular farm skills that started to change my life. So this is part of the personal development, learning that extra skill. In my seminars, I now teach, in the 21st century, you need more than one skill. One is for economic safety.
Right.
Here's the guys that's worked for General Motors. They just, closed a couple of plants and laid off, 25,000 people. This guy has been there, let's say, for 15 years. Now he's laid off, and he tells us he's already having economic difficulty. And the reason is, Chris, he only had one skill. Over the last 3 or 4 years, if he would have taken accounting 2 nights a week or something,
Yeah.
so that when this crisis occurred, he would have something to fall back on. So in my seminars, I teach a whole list of skills I learned by the time I was 31 that not only made me rich, but really broadened the whole scope of my ability to be an entrepreneur, affect other people's lives. And then I got into, of course, teaching and training. But that's part of it. I learned sales. I learned to find good people. I learned to get people to work together. interesting phrase in the Bible says, if 2 or 3 agree on a common purpose, nothing's impossible. I thought, wow, 2 or 3, not all alone, but 2 or 3. So if you can get inspired and inspire a couple of people to go with you, you could do some pretty extraordinary things. I learned how to do that. Then I learned recognition and rewarding people for steps of progress. You may work for a company and they reward people for the big steps. I've learned to reward people for little small steps of progress. Anything you can think of to give them a reward for making some progress.
It doesn't have to be a big reward.
Doesn't have to be big.
Small.
Something small.
Kind word.
Then it comes to a philosophy that says, be so busy giving other people recognition, you really don't need it for yourself. Now you've arrived at a very good place. Your greatest happiness is other people getting rewards, not necessarily yourself. But then Zig comes back with the old philosophy that's so true. If you help enough people get what they want, from either money to recognition or success, you can have everything you want.
Yeah.
I heard Zig say that, I think, almost 50 years ago, 45 plus. And when he said, you can have everything you want, I underlined the word everything.
Because you could want a lot,
and
right?
I said, hey, I think Zig is right. If you help enough people get what they want.
Yeah.
But that's another skill. Then I think the ultimate skill is the skill of communication. And I divided that one into 3 parts. One is training, right? Showing somebody how to do the job. Next is teaching. And I simply used the 2 words for a purpose, teaching life skills. Because one of the things that helped me really revolutionize my life, age 25, was learning how to set goals. Decide what you want, write it down, start checking them off. Where do you want to go? Make that list. What do you want for your family? Make that list. I started doing all that. That's called teaching life skills. So if you combine job skills with life skills, your chances now really start to multiply. Then the ultimate in communication is learning to inspire, helping somebody to see themselves better than they are, transporting them into the future. Say, Mary, here's who you could become. With just a few changes, I promise you, you'll never be the same again. Here's the kind of person you could become. Confident, strong, able to cope with circumstances and changes. You could be that person.
So do you think that is something that anybody can do? I mean, typically when people think of leaders, they think of the heads of, captains of industry and presidents and, leaders of social movements. Is that something somebody do, middle management in their own career, parents?
Sure. Parents should even learn to do it at home.
Yeah.
Here's the person you could become. We try every means possible, right? Especially for our children.
Yeah.
To expose them ideas that we know, we translate best we can, or from church, or hopefully from school, from the neighborhood, from the business community where they might get a job and go to work. We just hope and pray that they will be constantly exposed to things that'll cause them to think, change, refine habits, develop skills, have personal satisfaction of the success they want. We hope that happens. But it's going to come from a variety of sources, not just one. It's like mentoring. I happened to find somebody who, was the business employer, business partner that I worked with, as well as being a mentor. But sometimes, somebody mentors you in good health. Somebody else mentors you in spiritual matters. Someone else mentors you in family relations. And someone else mentors you in business and developing skills.
Did you go actively looking for mentors throughout your life?
No. After that Girl Scout experience, I said to myself, I must find something. And sure enough, a friend of mine said, I've gone to work with this man. You've got to meet him. That was shortly after that I met Mr. Schoaf.
And
Who knows the mystery of that, right?
When
really,
the student is ready, the teacher appears. Yeah.
When you have that determination, it seems like things start, happening and coming your way.
Yeah.
At least the odds are better.
Yeah.
Everything's a matter of odds. But if you do certain things, I think you can increase your odds that better things will happen for you.
So after you became successful in your business, then there was a phone call. You got a phone call, right? And somebody said, hey, come and talk to us.
Yeah, I moved to Beverly Hills.
Because that's what you should do when you become successful.
Yeah,
right?
where
Move
else
to
would
Beverly
a
Hills.
kid from the farm country of Idaho move to if you got rich? Beverly Hills. So when I get there, a friend of mine said, you've got to come and tell your story to my service club. You belong to the Rotary. And he said, if I arrange this breakfast meeting, I think, or a luncheon meeting, he said, would you come, just do a little 30-minute talk and tell your story? And he said, we'll call it Idaho Farm Boy Makes It to Beverly Hills. I said, okay, suits me. So I did this little talk, and evidently they enjoyed it. Before the day was over, I got a couple more invitations. You got to come talk to our service club, tell that same story, share those same ideas. That started me thinking about, really becoming involved in teaching and training. I'd done a lot of training and inspiring in my own entrepreneurial organizations, but not for the public. So I started doing these little talks for service clubs, and once in a while a high school class, college class, enjoying it very much. Then one day a man said to me, I've heard your talk now 2 or 3 times, and I've got this little company going. And he said, if you would come make a presentation, I'd be happy to pay you. And I thought, incredible.
There's a job.
Yeah. Could I really share my story and get paid? He said, I'll be happy to do it.
Wow.
So I did that. Then that led to another one and another one. Then later on, the idea occurred, why not have some representatives out selling tickets to come and hear a public seminar?
Yeah.
And we finally put that together. And that was, all those many, many years ago.
Tell us a little bit about that. This is a kind of a peek behind the scenes of, because you're really one of the pioneers, you and Zig and some of the other folks, Cavett Roberts and some of those. What was the culture like back then when you guys were out barnstorming America and really developing the whole personal development culture that now is so prominent in America? What was that like?
It was exciting. Of course, I gave it all away. All of those speeches I did in colleges, high schools, and for service clubs and so on, that was all free. Then when somebody offered to pay me, that put a whole new look on it. And then began this process of creating something valuable enough to where someone would buy a ticket and go and listen. And those were exciting days. The first one I did for pay, I think I had about 45 or 50 participants that bought tickets. A lot of them were friends of mine that I'm sure bought because they were friends of mine, but there were some others that legitimately bought at the Beverly Hilton Hotel in Beverly Hills. And that first public seminar for people buying tickets, I think, was 1961 or 62. Wow. 1962.
Wow.
And then it started growing from there.
Yeah.
And developed to where I am now, traveling the world and telling my story and still sharing ideas.
Yeah.
But it was a fantastic time.
Earl
Nightingale, right?
Yeah,
Some of those way back in the beginning. Napoleon Hill, with his lecture series way back before, was probably one of the first. They started calling it self-help movement.
Yeah.
And then came along the phrase personal development. Schoaf talked about personal development. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, he said.
Yeah.
If you work hard on your job, you can make a living, which is fine. If you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune, which is super fine. I thought, this is good philosophy.
Yeah. So did you guys ever get together and do big events with, you and Zig and Norman Vincent Peale?
Yeah, finally, over the years.
American Sales Masters, some of
all
those.
All of that, way back. That goes way back. Yeah. I remember the first time I did a multi-speaker. I think it was in St. Louis. It was about, 10,000 people there in one of the big auditoriums. Zig was there, and I was there, and Norman Vincent Peale was there, a couple of others. And this is the time when Zig said to me, he said, Jim Rohn said, you got to pay attention, and you got to really be good today in your presentation. Because he said, if 10,000 people turn on you, it is going to be a difficult day.
Words of wisdom
intimidated me. So I get up to speak, and I'm looking up in the balconies, and I'm saying, I got to do my best. Zig may be right. If I don't do well, I will incur the wrath of these 10,000 people. But that was that was good advice. I learned along the way to pay more attention to the audience. Way back in the early days, I was more absorbed in my lecture and what I was having to say. People could have left, and I probably wouldn't have really known it. But then I got to where I could look up and find out what's going on out in the audience, and are they getting it, and is it coming across? And I teach that now in some of my seminars.
Yeah. When you think back to those speakers, who really stands out in your mind as being somebody that you really admired and respected?
Yeah, Zig Ziglar was. We've traveled, gone to other countries to lecture on the same venue. Earl Nightingale was unique, a unique person in his own right. The stuff that he wrote, as well as his speeches and lectures, were captivating, interesting, made you listen, thought-provoking, and that's all we're really trying to do, right?
Yeah.
The minister on Sunday morning, right, just wants to share ideas, get people thinking, pondering about their life, how to refine things spiritually as well as how to refine things economically and personally.
Yeah.
And we can all use a little coaching, whether it's one-on-one person or whether it's in a seminar setting or whether it's church or a Sunday school class, wherever it is, where ideas are being shared. There's always a chance to pick up something that you hadn't quite thought about before.
It's Chris Widener, and I hope that you're really enjoying this interview that I did with Jim. You can tell that it was a little while ago. You can see how young I looked in that video. It was such an amazing opportunity to be able to work with Jim Rohn, but then to be able to interview him, which we didn't know at the time. This would become the last video interview that Jim ever did. So I hope that you're enjoying it. Some wisdom from one of the great legends. And I've got some amazing resources for entrepreneurs that are available to you. All you have to do is just go down and check in the comments and the links below, and you'll be able to see some other great resources. So let's get back to listening to the great wisdom of the legendary Jim Rohn.
In 2004, summer of 2004, you got the Masters of Influence Award at the National Speakers Association. And I was there to be able to be there and see that. And one of the things that really amazed me was they asked the crowd, and there was maybe 2,000 people there, 3,000 people there, how many of you would say that Jim Rohn has significantly influenced your life or your speaking career? And nearly 2/3 of the hands went up. How do you feel about that?
It's it's so extraordinary from where I came from.
Yeah.
Southwest Idaho farm country. I still have the old family farm overlooking the Snake River, where I make a little wine and grow a few crops and live the good life there. But it is extraordinary. One of the greatest experiences, and you heard me say before, is when someone puts your name in their testimonial. Here's the person that found me. Here's the person that got me started. Here's the person that wouldn't let me quit. Gave me more reasons for staying than for leaving. Here's the person who believed in me until I could believe in myself. And then they mention your name.
Yeah.
That's big time stuff.
Yeah.
You can't buy it with money.
Yeah.
You have to earn it. What's extraordinary for me now is to go to Russia and lecture. I started lecturing in Russia 12 years ago. To go back now again and have someone say 12 years ago, here's what's happened to me, my family. I want to introduce you to some people. I've helped change their life since you changed my life. That's so extraordinary. I guess that's why at age 75, I am still off to Chile and Santiago, and a few days after that, Australia, then 3 cities, I think, in India and South Korea. One little trip.
Yeah. I want to talk to you about your travels, and it's one of the fun things about having speakers like yourself who come in who do world travel, and to really just ask them, what's the world like? There's a lot of people who are watching the show who they don't get a chance to travel that much, and we hear things in the American media or whatever, but what are some of the countries that you've loved to spend time in, and what do you think the average person should know about some of these countries and cultures?
Speaking of the travel, I used to travel the Concorde.
Oh,
before they shut it all down. 3 hours from London to New York. It's so extraordinary. Now Singapore's got this new flight, Los Angeles to Singapore direct, 17 and a half hours.
Oh.
So that's quite an experience.
Yeah.
You know, it's like 9 meals and 4 movies, and finally you get there.
Yeah.
But first class is, you know, exciting, and caviar and champagne and, you know, all the amenities. But traveling to other countries, you know, people are basically the same. You know, they've got families and they want to do well, and they want the next generation to be better off than they are. People have hopes and dreams, and want to know how they can achieve success. What could I do? It seems like I've been stuck for 4 or 5 years. What could I do to make a difference? Everybody wants to know. And then they want to be fulfilled. People want to, you know, have satisfaction, whether it's spiritually, socially, personally. Satisfaction of personal development. I'm better than I used to be. Mm-hmm. And I think if I keep working hard, I stand an excellent chance of being better in the future than I've been in the past. Those kind of aspirations, no matter where I go, from South Africa to Scandinavia, from Korea to India to Vladivostok, Russia, doesn't matter. People are basically the same, have the same desires. Some of the forms of government are a bit different, but not the aspirations of the people.
Do you take particular joy going to countries where there's burgeoning capitalistic societies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been fun for me is the opportunity to teach capitalism in Russia over the last 12 years. I've been there like 5 times in all the major cities, because they didn't have any concept of capitalism all those years under communism. Right. Because communism taught capital belongs to the state, not the people. And of course, we believe capital belongs to the people, not the state. A total different economic philosophy. But now, since the walls came tumbling down in Germany, 14, 15 years ago, now they have the opportunity to become entrepreneurs, and capitalism, personal responsibility, instead of we're always relying on the state. So it's all changing.
And they're hungry, aren't they?
Just, you know, they're ready for it. And of course, the same mystery and magic occurs in Russia like it does everywhere else. And you tell you, here's how you can dramatically change your life from pennies to fortune. And some say, yes, that's great, I will. And some say, I'm not sure that's for me. And I have to learn to accept that, right?
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about kids, because you have a lot of thoughts and theories about things that kids should learn, lessons they should learn. Tell us about some of those.
One of the easiest is capitalism, because I use it even in Russia, teaching capitalism, that even kids can, you know, become capitalists.
Yeah.
Because all it involves is, here's a 12-year-old. Couldn't he search the neighborhood? Doesn't have to be 12. 7 or 8. 8 years old, let's say, this little kid, and he searches the neighborhood, finds a little broken wagon, and pays $1 for it, and brings it home, fixes it up, paints it until it shines, straightens out the wheels until they're true, takes it back to the neighborhood and sells it for $5. Makes a $4 profit. Could that be possible? And everybody says, well, yes, it could be possible. And all he would have to have is the idea. So I'm teaching kids how to have 2 bicycles, one to ride and one to rent. Right. You don't have to be General Motors to make a profit.
Yeah.
So just a bit of ingenuity, you know, from the lemonade stand to whatever. Those are just all examples of capitalism at work, where you make something and sell it, or you buy something and sell it. Then teaching kids a little bit about money management, I think is important.
What are the things that they ought to learn?
Don't spend more than 70 cents out of every dollar. And then 10 cents for charity or church, another 10 cents for active capital, like find a broken wagon, pay $1 for it, fix it, sell it for $5. That's active capital. And then last 10% is passive capital. Let someone else use your money. Invest it and let them pay you interest or whatever. So a good program for kids to learn. 70, 10, 10, and 10.
Yeah.
And if you do that over a reasonable period of time, you'll become financially independent.
Isn't it funny how human nature, even at that little kid level, is to spend it all?
Yeah.
And then some more.
Yeah.
And borrow and spend some more.
So the way you teach it is, could a child buy a bottle of soap for $2 and sell it for $3? The answer is yes. Johnny goes next door and says, Mrs. Brown, Mama uses this soap. It's really good. It's only $3. And Mrs. Brown says, Johnny, I've really got plenty of soap. And he says, you better let me come in and check. Kids don't have to go to classes, right?
They don't take no for an answer.
Yeah. It's about $40,000 a year, not to own it, but to watch it.
Huh.
And I said, that's too much to pay.
Right.
I'll pay maybe $4,000, but not $40,000.
Right.
Come on.
Pay the $4,000 and throw it away and don't use it. You'll still be ahead of the game.
So sometimes all it takes is a revolutionary idea like that. Somebody says, I think Jim Rohn's right. This television is costing me too much money to watch it. Because if I would use that same time employing myself, finding ways to make a profit, whatever, no telling what would happen.
Yeah. What about?
But unless somebody comes along and sort of, shakes up the basket and talks about things like that, on our own, we could think about it eventually, but sometimes it's a bit late.
Yeah.
Because that's why when I said things cost too much, and he said, no, you can't afford them. I hadn't thought about that before. When I said, this is all the company pays, he says, no, that's all they pay you. And without that kind of sort of counsel or guidance or reminder, it's easy to drift along a few more years without making the necessary changes to make your life better.
And he was pointing the responsibility back to you.
Always.
Always about you. Yeah.
He said, you've been working now 6 years. I quit school when I was 19. I'm now 25. That's 6 years. He said, you've been working now 6 years. How are you doing? And I said, not very well. He said, I suggest you not do that anymore. He said, would you like to repeat the next 6 years like the last 6? And I says, not really. He said, would you like to revolutionize the next 6 years versus the last 6? And I said, yes. And over the next 6-year period, I became a millionaire.
You say...
Isn't that amazing?
It is. I mean,
from the first 6 to the second 6.
Same period of time.
Same period of time with a whole totally different philosophy.
Yeah.
Multiple skills, learning to be an entrepreneur, Zig's old philosophy, if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything you want. Understanding all of that. John Kennedy said, don't ask what the country can do for you. That's not how you get rich. Ask, what could I do for my country? Starting with my neighbors, starting with my family. Is there some service I could render, some product I could represent? What could I do for the people of the country? And if you start thinking about that entrepreneurially, now you can have some extraordinary life change. And it happened to me over that next 6 years versus the last 6. What a difference. And the difference was not the country. You don't have to leave the country. And the difference was not the economy. The economy that second 6 years of my working life was about the same as it was the first 6 years. So the difference was not circumstances. Some winters are long and some are short. That's going to happen in any 6-year period. But the difference now is your own refined philosophy and how you think about things. That's why you've got to welcome every chance to listen to the lyrics of a song or the sermon on Sunday morning, the teacher, the professor, someone who, like you, recommends good ideas to someone who will take the time to listen. That is all so valuable. And collected over a period of time, compounded into activity and disciplines, fortunes can come your way.
Yeah. You and your friend Charlie Jones talk an awful lot about books, and that we become the product of the books we read and the people we meet, audio programs we listen to. What books have shaped your life the most?
It started with the Bible. My parents made sure I was a pretty good scholar by the time I was 19. That's 66 books.
Now, that's not very politically correct to say that the Bible, right? So, but it's
a collection of 66 books, whatever you might think about it.
Yeah.
It's had such excellent recommendation over such a long period of time that it's not a bad idea to at least have a look.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't have to agree, but it would be, I think, it would be unwise not to look. At least check it out.
What are your favorite thoughts from the Bible?
One I'm using currently, which I think is so valid, is paraphrasing it, the storyteller says there were two nice people. The story of two nice people, not an evil person and a good person, but two nice people. And the storyteller goes on to say, however, and this is where the drama of life begins. However, one built his house on the rock and the other built his house on the sand. And in just one sentence, we understand, we comprehend. Well, yes. No matter how nice you are, if you build your house on the sand, come on. Then it says the storms came as they always do, and everybody says, well, yes, we got to recognize that. And the one that built his house on the rock was saved, and the one that built his house on the sand was lost. Both nice people. Which means nice people can make errors in judgment. Nice people can make careless decisions. Nice people can make foolish decisions. Sometimes even fatal. Here's a nice guy. He's married, got a wonderful family. He lives in Los Angeles. He's a good citizen of the community. This is a nice guy. He's ambitious. He does well. He's in Los Angeles driving his car, and he's late for an appointment, and he's pushing it. And he comes to the intersection, and the light turns red, and a little voice in his head says, go ahead, you're late, you can make it. And now he's dead. Nice guy, but he's dead. When in a split second of time, he made a foolish decision. So you don't have to go off to some foreign country and die in some foreign war to be dead. All you have to do is make a careless decision or a foolish decision at the wrong time. And we're all tempted. What was that voice I heard this morning that said, you don't have to do your exercises this morning?
You hear that voice too?
Yeah, you're running late.
I hear that voice too.
You can make up for it, when you get back from your seminar trip. And I said, no, I've got to do at least a modified version, even though I'm late. And you just, that's every day, Chris. The waitress irritates you. And now you've got a choice. Let it go, or make a big deal out of it and embarrass everybody. Everybody's got the choice. Mm-hmm. Here's a good one. I'm walking into Nate and Al's in Beverly Hills, where, by the way, 2 mornings ago, there was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I had a nice chat with him. Before I walk into the restaurant, I've got 2 quarters to put into the machine to get my paper. A man walks up just ahead of me, puts in 2 quarters, opens it up, takes out his paper, and he holds the door of the dispenser open and says to me, go ahead and take you a copy. Said, the newspaper can certainly afford it. And he offered for me to take my newspaper for free. What do you do?
Yeah.
Here's a nice person. I got a judgment call to make. Fortunately. Maybe because Mama was watching. I don't know. No, my upbringing. I said, no, thank you. And he looks very shocked. Said, okay, closed the door. And I put in my 2 quarters and got my paper. Because the key is, if you take the free paper, it could affect you for the rest of the day. Something will sort of nag at you and say, why would you want to feel like this to save 2 quarters?
Right.
And sometimes when you do it, now that's a good lesson, and you won't do it anymore because you just don't want to feel that way anymore. That means maybe part of that's how you've been raised, right? Those little moral questions that you go through.
And guilt can be a good teacher.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You don't want to hear from
you. Say, well,
yeah,
I don't want to feel like this. And maybe it nags at you for a whole week, and you say, wow, for 2 lousy quarters, I took me the free newspaper, never again. And but sure enough, the next time we're tempted again. It doesn't mean that the temptation goes away. We get a little bit stronger about, saying yes to the positive side.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I really want to live my life.
After the Bible, what other books would you recommend for people to pick up that shaped and influenced your life?
I'm big on Shakespeare, and Think and Grow Rich changed my life. The Richest Man in Babylon helped me become a millionaire by the time I was 31. Then I'm a big student of history. Durant, Will and Ariel Durant wrote all these books on history. I go through some of those. One book I've got that helped lay the foundation for my own library was a book called How to Read a Book by Mortimer Adler.
Mortimer Adler, yeah.
And in this book, he's got a list of what he considers, the best books ever written.
Yeah.
And I use that as sort of a centerpiece for my library.
Yeah. Did you ever meet David Schwartz, Magic of Thinking Big?
No.
Never met him.
That's a good book.
Yeah. Terrific book.
Yeah.
Huh.
And then there's a book that years ago when I was in my late 20s, As a Man Thinketh by James Allen.
Yeah.
Where each sentence is almost like a whole seminar.
Short little book.
Yeah. But dynamic. Yeah. And its effect. Become a good reader, I say now in my seminars, right? The books you don't read won't help. 2 books a week in a 10-year period, and you've read 1,000 books.
Wow.
And if over the next 10 years you read 1,000 books, it will dramatically affect every phase and part of your life.
Yeah. You talk about the 2 pains. Everybody has to experience one of 2 pains. And I think that it's one of my favorites that you talk about because it's so profound and it's so true and it's so final. It is universal. You will experience one of the 2 pains. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the little illustration about the newspaper is a good illustration. The pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Go for the discipline because it weighs ounces. The regret weighs tons because it can accumulate. Discipline versus regret. The discipline could be painful, but the regret is usually an accumulation that could eventually become overwhelming. So better the discipline now. But it's true in real life. If you discipline yourself to plant the crop in the spring, you now have a chance for a multiplied harvest in the fall. What you don't plant won't multiply. What you neglect. I neglected to buy from my friend 8 years ago. He offered me this little tiny condo, 1 bedroom, little small place in Carmel, California.
Yeah.
Ron said, I want $80,000 for this condo. I said, Ron, that's insane. Nobody's going to pay $80,000 for this condo. He said, okay. If you change your mind, let me know. I'm ready to sell. And he put it on the market last year, toward the end of last year, for $650,000. That was one of those times I should have listened to the positive side of the voice that said, why not buy?
And he kept it for another 8 years, right?
So in his prayers every night before he goes to sleep, he, thanks to good Lord, I didn't buy this condo. $80,000 to $650,000.
Wow.
Everything's lessons to learn, right? I could have, I should have. I'll do a better job in the future of making wiser decisions. That's the best counsel we can possibly have. Yeah. Whether it's a bit of waste of time that we could tighten up on or whatever it is, why not do it? Then I think one of the greatest joys for me, and of course I've made it now as become a business, is passing along and sharing ideas with others that have profoundly affected your own personal life. It's a great joy. whether I do it in Novosibirsk, Siberia, or whether I do it in South Africa or India or anywhere in the world. The opportunity that if you say something uniquely enough that it could affect somebody's life or begin the process of affecting somebody's life, it's an awesome experience.
Yeah. You have a list of things that people should do. Everybody should, what is it, have a Manhattan in Manhattan? And
oh, yeah, those life experiences.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
What are some of those experiences you think everybody should do?
Drink a Manhattan in Manhattan, yeah. You should have Australian lobster tails in Australia.
Yeah.
You should eat Boston baked beans in
Boston.
Maui onions are delicious, but you have to eat Maui onions in Maui.
And it's a lot better than the Walla Walla onions.
Yeah, right.
I'd rather eat onions. If you have to eat
True.
onions, Maui better than Walla Walla.
It's a fun list to make.
Yeah.
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 You got to drink Canada Dry in Canada.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. If you think long enough, you can come up with a pretty good list of saying, hey, that sounds like experiences that I'd like to have.
How are you spending your time?
Got to have a Singapore sling in
Singapore.
Yeah. I was there just 3 or 4 months ago. Singapore. Yeah. It's a fun list, and it's just check them off.
Yeah.
But then I talked about, you got to drink in an Arizona sunset and, walk the white beaches of Carmel and, just start making this list. Let it inspire you.
Yeah.
I started teaching this a long time ago, and it's surprising how many people come up to me and say, I've added to my list. I'm working on the list, 20 years ago when I heard you say this. Here's some of the places I've gone. I probably never would have gone if I hadn't have heard your seminar. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Or you got to have an Idaho baked potato in Idaho.
Yeah. You're spending a little
You
bit
can
of
have
time
one in
Idaho,
Beverly
right?
Hills, and it's okay. But, make the trip.
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, I had an Idaho baked potato in Idaho.
Yeah. So how are you spending your time now when you're not traveling?
Well, I used to ride the Jeep trails on my dirt bike. But my daughter finally persuaded me. Daddy, she said, age 75, I'm not so sure. So that's sort of passing away. But I used to love to do that.
Yeah.
It was one of my getaway times, up on top of the mountains, riding the Jeep trails. And either alone or with somebody. And good way to get away.
Yeah.
No traffic lights. Time alone, I think, is really essential.
Sure.
To get away, contemplate, think, wonder. Something I'm doing now is working on the multi-purpose seventh day.
Huh.
It says, work 6, rest the 7th, but I'm calling the 7th day now multi-purpose. Spirituality and friendship and getaway and so on.
Yeah.
But I'm also saying, Chris, that 7th day should be a little bit of time spent reviewing the last 6 days.
Huh.
Who did I not meet? What didn't I do? What did I miss? What should I tighten up? And then make better plans for the next 6 days.
Huh.
I'm going to catch up the next 6 days, some of this that I've missed the last 6. So that's part of the multi-purpose of the 7th day, review 6.
We've called it power living. And let me just give you the list. All of this, I'm sure, is familiar to you. Maybe I can show it to you in sort of a new way with a new concept. But here's my list. It's a list you can use in your training, passing it on to someone else. And here it is. First, self-confidence. Where does self-confidence come from? And this is the best advice I can give you on that. Not neglecting, first of all, the small daily disciplines. Self-confidence really comes from feeling good about yourself. And one of the best ways to feel good about yourself is at the end of the day to know that you poured it on. You did your best. If you conducted a meeting, you did the best you could. If you made a phone call, it was the best phone call you could possibly make. If you wrote a letter, it wasn't a casual letter, it was your best letter. At the end of those kind of days, when you feel good about yourself, self-confidence starts to rise. You know that if you can have this kind of a good day, you can have another one the next day, and those days become the weeks become the months, and the month becomes a powerful year.
Self-confidence comes from the lack of neglect. If you will not neglect to do the small daily disciplines, that's where self-confidence comes from. Part of good health is self-confidence. I know I'm going to be healthy. I take the Herbalife products. I eat the apple a day. I walk around the block. I do the jogging on the beach. At the end of the day, when you've really poured it on and you've done all the stuff, self-confidence grows. That self-confidence affects your health. It affects your future. It affects your psyche. So this is true. One of the great powers is self-confidence. Self-confidence means willingness to do whatever it takes to achieve. Some people say, well, I'll do it for a little while and see what happens. You know, I'll try a couple of things. If that doesn't work, I'm out of here. And all of us know that that kind of person doesn't have much of a future. But if you're willing to do whatever it takes, if I have to learn a couple of things, I will learn those things. If I got to learn 5 or 6 things, I'll learn all 6. If I have to take an extra class, I'll take an extra class. If I've got to read the books, I'll read the books. If I have to consult with people who know more than I know, I will do the necessary consulting. Whatever it takes, I will do. That starts to develop unbelievable self-confidence. Self-confidence also comes from the ability to rise above your circumstances. Here's the next one, learning the power of purpose. A person who has purpose in their life, they have something to go for, some meaning. One writer described it, for some people it becomes a magnificent obsession. And for you and I, maybe it doesn't need to be that dramatic as a magnificent obsession. But it has to be something that does something to us, something that pulls us, especially into the future. You know, there are many influences on us. One is the influence of the past. Some people are always pulled back by the past. Some people are always pulled aside by the distractions. But here's what's powerful. If you have a list of high purpose in your life, it pulls you toward the future. And the more powerful the purpose is, the stronger it pulls. And here's the other great advantage if you have purpose for the future. It pulls you through all kinds of challenges and all kinds of difficulties. If you don't have these strong purposes for the future, it's easy to get swallowed by a bad day. It's easy to be almost annihilated by a poor month. And it's easy sometimes to almost disappear beneath the waves of a year that goes backwards if you don't have something to pull you beyond that year. So if you want something to pull you through all kinds of challenges, all kinds of difficulties, and things that come at you, you got to have something on out there, beyond today, beyond next week, beyond next month, beyond this year, that pulls you into the future. And the clearer it is, the stronger it pulls. The more dynamic it is, the more it affects your life, your spirit, your heart, your soul. It also creates imagination. It gets your mind working on how to achieve that purpose. And if your mind will work, and if your heart works, and if your spirit works, and if you have good input, like good ideas, I'm telling you, there isn't anything you can't accomplish. So that's one of the great powers that'll make a variable of you, and that is purpose. The third on the list I had is expertise. Wanting to excel in all of the skills and settling for nothing less than an outstanding performance. If you're willing to be the best in your field, if you're willing to demand of yourself excellence in skills, to be the best that you can possibly be. In the training, do the best you possibly can. In doing a workshop, do the best you possibly can. Developing the skills of using your personality, developing the skills of language, developing the skills of influence, developing the skills of organizing. If you're willing to be an expert in all of the skills, Herbalife has the way for you to invest those skills and not only make a handsome living, not only make a lot of money, but if you would so desire and if it would be your purpose, a chance to make your fortune. Expertise, excellence in skills. Here was the next one on my list, making a powerful contribution to you, the variable, and that is preparation. Well prepared.
And preparation, of course, involves a whole lot of things. A big share of our life is preparing, getting ready. When we go to the first grade in school, we're just preparing for the second grade. After we've finished 2 grades, the 2 grades prepare us for number 3. Sometimes it seems like a long, excruciating time. And the time will just seem like it'll never come when we can finally have the performance that we really want. But it takes time to prepare. It takes time to get ready. And the decisions you make in the preparation time, those are the decisions that last for a lifetime. Preparing to have a good day. It's that preparing, maybe the night before, maybe the couple of days before the day that you're going to put everything together. The preparation for a meeting means that you've taken it serious. The preparation for doing a workshop means you're serious about the workshop. You want to make the best contribution. That kind of preparation is important. But here's preparation that's very vital, and that is to prepare yourself for success. Life seemingly does not wish to waste success on the unprepared. Life says, why waste a fortune on this person? They're not prepared to do the right things with it. They're not prepared to use it wisely. If a fortune was bestowed upon this unprepared person, it would probably be wasted. The people that could have been touched won't be touched. What could have been done won't be done because this fortune will have been wasted on the unprepared person. So not only look for fortune, not only look for the promise, but prepare yourself and ask of yourself, what can I do to make myself ready? Because remember, life was designed not to give us what we want, not to give us what we need, but life was designed to give us what we deserve. Next on my list to help you become the powerful variable was enthusiasm. And here's what I wrote about enthusiasm. Enthusiasm that's powerful is mostly enthusiasm that is enthusiasm inside, 90%, 10% outside. We all know what the enthusiasm is like when somebody lets us see their enthusiasm, which is like the 90%, and only 10% of it is inside. But the enthusiasm that really affects people is not just being loud, but the enthusiasm that runs deep, the enthusiasm that comes from deep inside, created by self-confidence, created by purpose, created by genuine willingness to help other people. That kind of enthusiasm, knowing that you're going to get the job done, knowing you're going to affect people, knowing you're going to have testimonials flowing in from all kinds of directions. That kind of enthusiasm. A lot of it is quiet. A lot of it is unheard. And the 10% that's heard, it rings a bell. People call it genuine enthusiasm because they know that what you say in the outward display of your enthusiasm is only a small tip of the iceberg of the enthusiasm you feel inside that really motivates you to do the best job you can. Every value in life must be paid for. And those that pay are the ones that get it. It says those that give, receive. Someone says, I wish to receive, I wish to receive. You don't have to concentrate on receiving. Just become a good giver. It says those that search will find. Someone says, well, I need to find some good ideas to help change my life for the future. Then to find good ideas, that doesn't come because you need them. It comes because you search for them. If you want good ideas, you got to go after them. You got to go to the class. You got to go to the workshop. You got to go to the training. Go to the book, right? You got to go to the journal, right? Go where good ideas are being taught. Go searching, go looking, because good ideas are not going to be wasted on those that are not seeking, searching, well prepared. So, prepare yourself to be ready for fortune when it comes, to be ready for challenge when it comes, to be ready for opportunity when it comes. Opportunity comes along and passes by the person that is not well prepared. I want to prepare myself this year for next year. Yes, I wish to be effective this year, but I'm also thinking of ways, how could I be better? How could my ideas be more powerful? How could they be sharper, more clear? How could I reach some people next year that I perhaps can't reach this year? I haven't reached deep enough into my own soul to affect some people. Some people just pass by and say, hey, what a good speech. But how could I make it stronger than that, deeper than that, more powerful than that? Now here's the next one. There's great power in self-reliance. Self-reliance means you simply look mostly to yourself. It would be nice if someone just gave you this, gave you this, gave you this. It would be nice if everyone did their job exactly as they're supposed to do it. But here's what you've got to do. Primarily rely on yourself. Primarily say, I'm the person responsible. And I will learn the necessary skills so that I can help people learn their skills. If I need lots of people to do certain things to build my organization, that is what I must have. But I've got to be the final backstop. I've got to be the final one that people can rely on. So that if this is missed and this is missed, I can catch up. I can fill the gap. I can do the job. We have to do it when we conduct meetings. We have to do it when we conduct training. We have to do it when we're in a class of just a few. What someone might have missed, we're there to fill in. Self-reliance. Primarily, we're learning to count on yourself. So that you can do this, never complain and never explain. Here's the next key power, and that's image. There's many parts to image. The image that others see you as, the image you have with other people. And it's very important how other people see you. If they don't see you as a leader, chances are they won't pay attention. If they don't see you as being in control, chances are they won't have the trust. If they don't see you as knowing where you're going, what you want to accomplish, they probably won't follow. But if people can see you, if you have the image of someone that's in charge, in control of your life, your future, your destiny, in control of the situation, if they see that, that kind of image is powerful. It helps to win the day. It attracts other people. People want to be around people that are in control, that are powerful, but they know how to use their power, influential, but they know how to use their influence. That kind of image is important. But here's a very important image, and that is your image of yourself. The way you dress, the way you talk, the way you think, your capacity for learning, all of that is an important image that you have of yourself. The image that you have that if it needs to be learned, you could learn it. If there's a book that needs to be mastered, you could master it. If there's a skill that needs to be learned, why couldn't you get busy now and learn that skill? That kind of self-image, that I am continually trying my best to be the best I can. Because one of the most important places you have to look is into the future, yes. You got to look into the past, yes. You've got to look around, yes. But one of the most important places you have to look is in the mirror. You know, how I appear to other people, that's important. But how I appear to myself is the ultimate importance. That kind of image, to where you'll develop the self-confidence, you'll develop the self-reliance. Now here's another one in my rather short list. The next word is character. Becoming a person of high values, a person of principles, a person of honesty, a person that earns respect. That kind of character. You know, cash it out as quickly as possible and leave. Mark was involved when others took advantage of him all those years ago before Herbalife. When someone took advantage and didn't have the character, didn't have the principles, and didn't have the character to stay, the character to see it through, the character to do the right thing. So this is important, to develop the character within yourself, that people see you as honest, as fair, willing to do the right thing, willing to be helpful, but always willing to walk the center line, not to pass the line. When we come to an opportunity like Herbalife, especially multi-level network marketing, it is so dynamic, it is so powerful, and it is so possible in fortune making that sometimes people want to speed up the process by cutting the corners, by neglecting to do the right things, to cheat a little here, cross the line just a little bit, because then It'll grow faster and you can cash in quicker. Not necessary here. Doing Herbalife right will build your fortune longer and stronger than trying to cut the corners and not doing it right. If we'll have the integrity that Mark had when he started it and keep perpetuating that we will do the right thing by the marketing system, the right thing by a distributor who has a customer and they take care of that customer belongs to that distributor. That kind of integrity in the marketing system, the kind of integrity we have among each other, the kind of character we have to rely on each other, because here's what we cannot do. We cannot do this by ourselves. Now here's another one. It's called self-discipline. Self-discipline, all of us have a challenge with that. Because sometimes it's easy, and especially if you're working hard, doing the best you can, it's easy sometimes to let up and let it go. But remember, so many people, especially now that we're as big as we are around the world, are counting on what we do. At home office, they have to be careful. They have to be disciplined. It's easy for the person who ships the product from Herbalife says, oh, well, I'll wait until tomorrow to ship it. And then they go home and sleep like a baby. But the distributor who's waiting for that product doesn't sleep that night, or doesn't sleep when the product doesn't show on time. But if everybody will have the discipline to say, I will do the best job I can. I will make mistakes, of course, because we're all human, but I'll try to remedy those mistakes and do the best job I can. That kind of self-discipline that understands how important your part is in all of the functions that work. Coming to work on the set here, HBN, there's so many people that play a part. And each one of the parts that are played is necessary to put on the broadcast, make it viable, make it real, make it powerful. Any couple of them missing, and it would be a disaster. But all of it put together, and it works like a charm. Each person developing the self-discipline to do their part, do their job. Here's one more, and that is the power of extraordinary performance and demanding of yourself excellent results. If we would ask of ourselves that kind of performance, and you've got to ask it of yourself. I can't ask it of you. I would try to inspire you. I would try my best to share with you what it might taste like, what it's like to finally make your fortune. It happened for me. But here's what you must do. You must demand it of yourself. Society does not demand that you not have a heart attack. But if you want to escape having a heart attack, you must demand it of yourself. Society doesn't demand that you take Herbalife and improve your health. You have to demand it of yourself. Society doesn't demand that you jog around the block every morning. But if you want good health, you must demand it of yourself. Society doesn't demand that you read a couple of books a week and improve your intelligence and your knowledge. That you must demand of yourself. Society does not demand that you build a financial wall around your family nothing can get through. That's not a demand of society. But you must demand it, if you wish it, you must demand it of yourself. Society doesn't demand that you learn a list of 10 skills in order to ensure your own future and the future of your family. Society doesn't demand it, doesn't require it. It is not a law. But if you want the benefit, you must